Coming up on this episode of The Brain Drain Show.
Took a sip out of his beer, put it down, and he went, "Hey, you guys, you won't be talking shit when you see my footage." Phelps comes running out of this hotel, jumps in the van, he's like, "Drive," and I went, "Nah. Skateboarding's like music. There's so many subgenres of skateboarding now." And he had this iPod, and I was like, "Oh, you can get so much music on it. What have you got on yours?" And he just had one Muppets album on his iPod, and that was it. And I got paid £124, and they gave me a check. He skated the whole time in a fur coat. There's only two things from Aldershot: heroin and soldiers. It's only slappies uphill. I'd be like, "This guy's sick." Next, all in. And I didn't really know that James was like this famous art guy. I just knew he drew the weird egg things. Just about to drink out a cup of tea, and he told me how much they were going to pay me, and I tried not to choke. I want a drawing of a skull as big as you can get it on paper. Exploding pregnancy test. The reason people even use the funeral fringe thing is because Lee at Creature used it once I'd done a graphic. He just used my email address. I think with Witchcraft it was good that no one was really making Mosher graphics apart from Creature. Witchcraft was so stuck in this image. When I did those graphics for Lucero, the best thing was actually just talking to Lucero on the phone, because he was like, "Can I just call you?" I was like, "Yeah." "Oh, here's a house to dry. I'm Vegler. How is it?" Fuck, he was giving me shit, and he was punching the roof of the van. We literally got to the first traffic lights, and I just turned the engine off, and I just turned and went, "Listen, if you're going to carry on, you can get the fuck out of my van." And I could see P-Stone was like really starting to laugh, and he went, "Yeah," and just sat back. We're munching out his old team. "You fucking drive that, you stupid fucking moshers." Also, my nickname isn't French, it's French Boy.
Good evening and welcome to another great episode of The Brain Drain Show with your trusty host, Forde Brookfield. Joined to my left is my even trustier co-host, Toby Batchelor. Toby, please tell the listeners your name.
It's Toby.
And joined
Hello.
to our left is, what can you say about this man? Impeccable taste.
Can you take your hand off me, please?
Right. Incredible taste, great artwork, a lovely front side slash. It is the one, the only,
French.
Funeral French. Round of applause in the studio audience,
That was
please.
really badly timed.
A round of applause from all four people.
We've got a studio audience here.
Yeah, we actually have a studio audience.
Of one.
Work experience audience.
Work experience.
Work
Jake
experience
is
and
here.
Goff Sean over here. Yeah,
Yeah,
we got Goff Sean on the keys today.
Yeah.
Great synth player, so he should be even better at these camera cuts.
I was surprised he's not wearing his gloves.
Sean, what have you got to
kind
say
of
about
ruined
that?
it.
Why aren't you wearing your gloves?
I don't know, but like I kind of like spreading the false rumor that I don't actually have hands.
Yeah. You know, like the guy from Toaster London.
Like Darth Vader.
No,
but both
Toaster
hands.
London, he's got
Yeah.
one hand.
Have you seen, this just came into my mind when you said that, before horses develop hoofs, have you seen what they look like before that? It's the stuff of nightmares. You probably love it.
What, when they're born?
Yeah.
So they're born without hooves?
Yeah.
Because a hoof's kind of like a fingernail, right?
Yeah.
Except it's a whole foot, so it's like a footnail.
Yeah.
It's like tentacles. It's very strange.
Sean, can you Google horse without hooves, please?
No, horse pre-hoofs.
Horse.
If you do it without hooves, it's just going to be a horse without any legs.
Yeah, surely it's
But
just
the
like
hooves
a
are just
water
on-
horse, isn't it?
Oh my god!
Yep, there you go.
Oh.
Yeah, that's weird.
Oh, it looks like a peeled back foreskin.
I'm getting that straight off my screen. Oh my god, it won't go away.
Is your mic's plugged in, so you can chime in, can't you, Sean?
Yeah,
I
he's-
can indeed chime in.
Yeah, big up Sean for stepping in for us to do the production. Right, let's start then. Let's get on with it. So, French, thanks for coming.
That's all right.
How was the drive?
Yeah, it was all right, actually. It wasn't the worst drive. Like, I've definitely had worse.
Did you microwave any pasties on the way up?
I didn't microwave anything on the way.
What's your go-to pasty?
Just a regular Cornish pasty. Like, I feel like it's one of those things you can't really mess with the flavours of pasties. Although I did have once a blackcurrant and custard pasty, which is actually really good.
Where did you get that from?
Someplace in Falmouth.
Oh.
I went to see Chaz, stay with Chaz, and me and his wife Lucy went for lunch, and she bought me that. She's like, "What do you want?" And I saw it and was like, "Well, that's weird. I'm going to have that for lunch."
I've never had a good Cornish pasty. Every time I've been there, they're just fucking horrible.
Pin's going to kill you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. Second time Pins came up on the poddy. He came up on Dykey's poddy as well, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
I love Pin.
I have good like messages with Pin about the fog. Pretty much, it's like the fog. Because me and Jamie the Pirate went to stage with him once.
Jamie the Pirate.
And he woke us up really early
That's a good
to
name,
watch
isn't
the
it?
fog. He also woke Jamie up at like 4 o'clock and was like, "Do you want a Barocca?" Just forced him to have a Barocca at like 4 in the morning.
Because he gets up really early, doesn't he? And goes and skates that park.
He goes and skates really early. But I reckon that's really good. Like, if
Do you
you're
know
gonna
the
go
name of that park that he skates?
skate- Werrytown.
I fucking knew it. I said on the Dykey episodes, he said Pin, and I was like, Pin, Werrytown. And both
But I don't
Dykey
know
and
if
Toby
it's-
were like, what's Werrytown?
I don't know if it's called Werrytown or if Pin just calls it Werrytown. I'm not
Because
really
on his
sure.
Instagram, there was a time when all he posted is a picture of him at the park and he put, I made Werrytown.
Yeah,
That was the caption. So I didn't know.
I've never skated it with him. I skated it when it was the old wooden one on the seafront.
Did he help get that new one built? The
think so.
concrete? That probably makes sense.
It's fun, that park though, but it is.
Yeah.
I've only skated it like once, and it was really windy. But I knew Pin as like the legend of like having a rad magazine and Pin being in it, and then they're like being Pin skate shop. And then when I met him, I was really quite starstruck that I'd met Pin. I was really like, and he was so nice. And actually,
Give me a little background history on Pin, because I don't know that much about
the only
it.
thing I know about Pin was he was from Cornwall. He was in rad magazines with Ben Badilli, right? And he
Benbo
was-
Diddley.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, so he's in rad magazine. He's obviously like, because when you're that age, you're like, oh, someone's in a skate magazine. They must be really famous in skateboarding. So
But wasn't Pin and Ben involved with Slam at some point?
I don't know.
So when Slam was a distro, because they did Foundation and Toy Machine for a time, like
Maybe.
we're talking late 90s probably.
Yeah, when Pullman was
That's
on it,
how
like.
Seth met Bam, I think,
Mhm.
maybe. But they were on Pin was on Foundation, wasn't he?
I don't know.
And
All I remember was he was in rad. Do you remember Mount Hawk was outside, and
Yeah.
once a year it would be in like rad
Yeah,
magazine.
yeah.
And then there was like a thing, and Pin had a shop, and in the adverts for shops there was a thing for Pin. And then
Yeah.
when we did that Side Effects Urethane exhibition, Pin was building the park, and
Right.
I met him there, and he was just the nicest bloke.
Yeah.
And he could do, and he's the first one to ever met that could do fronts of wall rides.
Messaged me randomly like, oh, I've just opened a box of this. Like, do you want something? Do you want these skate videos? And I'm just like, yeah. What do you want? He's like, oh, just when I worked at Slugger, he was like, oh, just get me a baker board. And have you seen his Instagram Pin's garage sale?
Oh yeah, because he sells loads of his old stuff. Right?
We should probably get him on. He seems like a very mysterious, bold man. How tall is he? He seems tall.
Mysterious, bold man.
He is tall. I can't remember. He's taller than me, so
Yeah.
he's more than 6'1". So he's pretty taller than you.
Yeah, is
6'2".
Maybe. Don't know, but I guess because he's really skinny, he looks even taller in pictures,
Yeah.
doesn't he? Because I always think, well, he's got a really big ollie. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
he's
remember
been
that
around
moment
for
as well.
such a long time. I always like back in like when I started, like you say, he was
Yeah.
in the mags and stuff.
but I met him that week, and I remember we went to get food, and he didn't have any cash, so I lent him a $5, and then I probably didn't see him for like 4 years.
And he was like,
And I-
here's your $5.
Yeah, and I saw him at Stockwell, and he came straight over and got his wallet out and gave me $5, and I had no recollection at all until he was like, "Last time I saw you, you lent me a $5," and I was just like, "Oh my
Nice.
god."
You want
It's-
people
And I was
that
really
bad,
like,
don't
I
you?
was like, "No, you don't have to give it back to me now." I was like, "It's fine." He was like, "No, you lent me a $5," and he was like, I was like, "This was really nice."
It's pretty interesting. Like, he looks tall because he's slim. Because I always thought that. Did you ever meet Colin Fiske when he'd come over?
Yeah.
With like, I always thought Colin Fiske was like, he's tall, but I always thought he was like taller than Dead Dave. But then I've been
No
going
one's
to.
taller than Dave.
I've been going to Emerica a bunch and skating with Fiske, and he's skinnier than this. His entire
Yeah.
body is so skinny, and
because he doesn't eat.
he's not. He just eats like kale. That's it.
Well, when he stayed with me and Alan Glass when we lived in Brixton, he stayed with us for a month, and the only thing he ate was digestive biscuits.
Yeah.
That was the only thing he ate. And I made him dinner once, and he danced up and down. I was like, "Oh my god, it's a banquet! It's a banquet!" It was literally like pasta and sauce. I just thought it was brilliant because for a start, when he arrived, I remember he had like, it was at the beginning of people having iPods as well.
And this is when he got on heroin, obviously.
Yeah,
That's
and
why he
he-
was coming over here.
Yeah, and he had this iPod, and I remember being like, "Oh," because I just got an iPod. I bought it off my mate Grill, and I was like, "Oh, you can get so much music on it. What have you got on yours?" And he was like, "The Muppets," and I was like, "Okay," thinking that was a joke. And then he was like, "No, look," and he just had one Muppets album on his iPod, and that was it. Like,
He's
and he
amazing.
came, and his luggage was literally like a backpack, and he had no change of clothes, and he was just wearing a boiler suit with the legs cut off,
Yeah.
and he wore it the whole time. he stayed with us.
Peak Fiske time when he was on heroin for
Yeah.
like. Just so the work experience lad knows, he's not on heroin as in the drug, the skateboard company. I went skating with him last time I was in the States.
So
And
he's still skating then?
got some new footage of him. Yeah. At the same spot.
Because
I
he
got him
was
doing a trick.
PJ Ladd video, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
PJ, Coliseum, Boston Massacre, that kind of shit.
Big frontside flips, wasn't it?
Does
was
that
like
mean
his-
he's going to have tricks in the next baguette head?
You
video?
fucking butchered
Bag
that.
head.
Can you say it, please?
Baguette.
Baguette head?
Baguette head. It's too
Bag
much.
head.
My tongue can't
Yeah.
handle it.
Baguette.
Baguette.
Well, yeah. So he's got some skate tricks, and then at the same spots
What's
he
he
does
filmed
like a BMX trick as well.
Can you tell us what you filmed?
I'll show you after. I might have it on my phone. I've not got it on
He had
my
a good
phone.
frontside flip, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really
That's the only
good.
thing I remember from that
Yeah.
PJ Lad video.
And
'cause
skating boards that were like,
he rode
well
longboards
too-
for a while, didn't he?
yeah, like
I think
well
that was
too
when he
long.
rode for Heroin. I think that was the thing. Was like Foz was like, well, I don't even have to give him boards because he just gets longboards.
Tell
I
him.
know that
You
Alan
can't
Glass
tell
told me
him.
that when they went there, when Alan was filming the.
Oh,
Heroin
did
stuff-
Alan go to film
Yeah, and
with
they
them?
stayed, and then I think they stayed. They went to see Fiske's mum, and Alan was like, they got in the car and they were driving off, and Alan was like, "Oh, your mum's quite hot." So Fiske drove around the block, and his mum was like, so he was like, "Mum, Alan thinks you're hot." Like that, I just told her.
Fiske boy, man. Yeah, he's skating a lot again. He last time I seen him,
Because he was a cycle courier or something, right? That's what he was doing when he stayed with us.
yeah, a cycle carrier, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Cycle career.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he was doing when he came to stay with us. That he'd saved that loads of money because him and
And it's dangerous doing that on those roads in Massachusetts. Like how he does it as well. It's like
because
pretty gnarly.
I met him and Dave Vay, after that. I met him and Dave Vay in New York. And
Oh yeah, someone
and
else knows Dave Vay.
And Dave Vay was amazing, but he was wearing he skated the whole time in a fur coat, which I thought was hilarious.
Where did you meet Vay? Over there?
Yeah, in New York.
Yeah.
It was free. I mean, he wasn't skating in a fur coat and it was middle of summer. It was the middle of winter, but it was like this fur coat that I really couldn't work out how you could skate in this giant coat. And I thought at the time, do you remember Crew made those like crazy fur coats? I assumed it was one of those. I don't think it was. I think it was
Just
just fur
something he
coat.
picked up.
Vay is so good at skating.
Yeah.
The king of freestyle.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah.
Who were we talking to about that before?
Andy Mack, when Andy Mack was on because he
No,
was
it's
from
a-
Boston.
Someone else. Oh, maybe.
Don Brown.
Don Brown.
Yeah.
Don's
But
in
yeah-
the country, isn't
Yeah, but he leaves. Well, he left yesterday.
he? Right.
He dropped me a message saying I'm only
She's
here
not in
till
the
Monday.
country.
Let's do the basics. Where are you from?
Aldershot. Where am I from or where do I live?
Where are you from? Where
Where
did
you
you grow
from?
I'm from Aldershot in Hampshire,
Nice.
home of the
And-
British Army.
Nice.
There's only two things in Aldershot or from Aldershot: heroin and soldiers, and me.
Right.
That's about it.
Three
That's
things.
3 great things.
Yeah.
How's it skating in Aldershot?
Skating in Aldershot was weirdly good. There was like
Yeah.
a weirdly good scene. Like it was there when I started skating like early '91. I got my first proper board like Christmas of like 1990, 91.
That's when I was born.
See, and then I started skating, and there wasn't really anyone that I could skate with. I didn't really have
Yeah.
any mates that skated,
Mhm.
and I started skating. And there was one guy who'd grown up on my road who was nearly 7 years older than me, my friend Duncan. And I got into skating because I saw him skate across the street, and he ollied the traffic island in the middle of the street.
Mhm.
And I was like, I want to be able to do that. And then I went to WH Smith's, and they had a rad magazine with a
Who was on it?
it was. I'm not sure who the first one I bought was the one with Ed Templeton doing the 1 foot.
Yeah.
And the one before that, there was Rip Grip, and I stole the Rip Grip from WH Smith's. And I
What,
was
it
like-
came like in a seal?
It was on the front of it, and I remember just nicking it. I didn't know what Rip Grip was, and I used to go to. So there was only one skate shop that I knew of, and it was in Woking. It was called Surrey Skateboards. And
Still there, right?
No, it's gone
When did it go?
years ago. Gav has it in his garage in like Dorset or Devon or somewhere now. But yeah, so my grandparents lived in Woking, and there was a ramp there.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to go to the skate shop with my grandpa, and we would just look at the boards. And my grandpa was a carpenter, so he was super interested in how they made boards.
Yeah.
And then we would go in, and I was just so into the graphics. But I was just like, and then I had like a board. I had like a board that was like a market board, which was cool. It had a tarantula on it. It was really cool. It had like a really good like mosh tarantula on it.
Yeah.
You know those plastic wheels, the big wide ones with no nose, but it's got a big square tail and the bobble tail saver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my dad took me to, I think like a half term, my dad took me to Southsea to skate the park because it was the only park. My dad knew about it, so we went to Southsea. And I remember asking my dad if I could get like a proper skateboard. And my dad was like, no, it's a lot of money, you can't have a proper skateboard. And he was like, you can only have a proper skateboard if you're still skating at Christmas. And then when we went to the skate shop, he was like, they're expensive. You can have the board, but you can't have anything else. So I saved all my money from like, it must have been Easter. So from Easter until Christmas. And then at Christmas, I went with my mum and dad, and my dad bought me a board, and I bought all the other bits.
Do you remember what that first board and setup was?
Yeah.
What was it?
It was a Ross Goodman Santa Cruz board, the one with the Gravedigger on it.
Yeah.
And I had Indy 169s. I had blockhead hard time wheels. I had whatever the cheap bearings were at NSKs. I didn't have riser pads because they were more expensive, and I didn't do rails because they were more expensive. And I paid the extra £2 to get Jessup instead of having Worcester grip tape because the guy in the shop was like, "You don't want Worcester, it's shit."
Worcester was really like.
It was the one that tore
really-
your shoes apart.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
really heavy duty grip tape. It was cheap as anything when it was like
Yeah.
budget grip. Yeah, Jessup.
Oh, I had bridge bolts as well
Oh, love bridge bolts.
because apparently they make you ollie higher. That's what the guy in the shop told me.
What? Because it caught you?
Yeah, catches your foot when you ollie.
Did it?
I don't know, to be
No,
honest.
it
'cause
doesn't. They're just uncomfortable.
They actually broke before I got to the point that I could ollie properly.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
One of them always cracks because they bend over.
Yeah, but I don't know if maybe because after that I did notice that lots of people had like the one in the front, the furthest forward truck. People would have it there. So I wondered if that maybe did help, but I doubt it did.
There was like a phase around that sort of time where you'd put your 2 front truck bolts closest to the middle of the board.
Upwards, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
The theory, drag it up. Load of shit. Because I don't
Yeah.
think it
No,
if
totally.
you can ollie, you can ollie. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any difference. But
no, I was obsessed with like just those sort of mosh graphics.
Hmm.
But it was that era of like you go to the skate shop and they didn't until like later on when I met like the guy that owned it, like John, and then when I worked at Shiner and I spoke to Chris about how they had sort of a healthy competition with Surrey's because there was no distributor. So Shiner brought stuff in and Surrey's refused to buy stuff from them. They only really sold like Santa Cruz, SMA, you know, like that era. It was like Zorlak, like anything they could get direct. So it was like all the graphics were quite mosh. So everything I saw was pretty mosh at the time. So I was quite into it.
when we'll go back to what you were talking about. At the time you worked at Shiner, was that when they still had the old stock?
Yeah. Because I got a Ross Goodman Gravedigger board with the same wood stain as my Chris
way.
gave it to as my leaving gift when I left.
Oh,
Because
was
he
that
knew
when-
that I wanted to buy it, and I'd always checked that there was still some left in stock because I was going to buy it, and then when I went to buy it, I was like, no, just take it.
Is that when you said they had all the stock and
It was- I just remember
shaped
seeing it.
boards were
It
going
was
for
mad.
pennies?
I just remember seeing a list come through. It must have been sort of mid 2000s, and that's before.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked there 2005.
Yeah, and I remember looking at the list, and it was just like, holy shit, I'd want all these.
But what was
and
crazy
they
as
were
well was
36 quid.
there was things, they were the same price as they
Yeah.
always had been. And
Yeah.
then once there was like a box, an actual board box of Alva Rip Grip, and Chris was like, just throw it in the skip. And I was like, can I keep it? And he was like, no, just keep it. And after that, it was like everywhere I went, because I'd have to go to the shops. I'd tell people, I've got this box, I just threw it in the bag, and people would be like, can we get some? So I was giving it out to shops as well.
Yeah.
When I've been told to throw it in the skip. But loads of the actual glue on the back was dead. And some
Yeah,
of it had gone
dried
like,
out.
and loads of it had just gone, like, it was like turned to sand, like it just fell
I
apart.
wonder what other shit just went in and skipped from there.
Oh, I don't know. Either that or what's his name? Todd Twist.
Sean Goff.
Sean Goff came down with a horse box and filled that full of stock when I was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Helped
he
him
did.
fill it up. Yeah, and he was buying like we had like laundry buckets of like odd wheels.
Yeah.
Like you know the laundry things
Yeah,
that are like
yeah.
huge. Yeah, those odd wheels. I remember helping him put those in the back, and like bin bags of old Vision t-shirts that the graphic was falling off, and shoes that were like brittle. Like
I just remember seeing that list, and there was like the Bob Boyle stained glass, which I always wanted. Was it Bob Boyle? Yeah, it was. And I was just like, I really want that.
But there was
Never
so
got around
much.
to it.
There was so much like Madrid and
Yeah.
Alva and stuff that I guess even then I was like, I don't know who any of these pros are. Like,
Yeah.
I would look at them like going in this. There was like that warehouse was below. All the old boards were below the office,
Right.
not in the other warehouse. And it was weird because you go through and be like, I've got no idea who any of these people are, or even like I've never seen these graphics.
Yeah.
They're
bet-
probably the one now that people are really after. Cause
Yeah, I
Tony
was
Free's
just about to
made
say, I
like
bet they
100.
wish if they did scrap any, I bet they wish they fucking kept them now.
I think towards the end of me working there, they did actually have this other guy, Rich, who was actually doing their eBay, and they were selling off a bunch of those old ones at like the price they are worth.
Yeah.
Because I think halfway through that became apparent that loads of that stuff.
Was worth a lot more money.
Yeah, yeah. But Surrey's were the same. They had like a container full of stuff that they sold to like, I can't remember. Some guy bought the whole lot, but it was like,
Yeah.
one of them was like 50 Jason Jesse Neptune graphics or something mad.
Fucking hell.
It was like loads of them. Like there was
Yeah.
like so much. I remember they had like so much random stuff at Surrey's as well. Like all these Vans stuff that you were like never seen that before. Like all these old Vans t-shirts that had like surfboard, like all over print surfboard stuff that was proper like 83, 84 looking, like really weird stuff.
It's mental, isn't it? But it kind of shows you that how quick the drop off was
Yeah.
from it going from like vert skating boards to then, more street.
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
because the first board I got only just about had a nose on it.
Yeah.
Like I remember it was like marketed as having like a twin kick, but it definitely wasn't like the next board I
Yeah.
got was definitely
Yeah.
what everyone now would call like the football shape or like the egg. It was definitely more like that. Like that was more that weird sort of shape.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember we'd always look in the mags and see the ads, and it was like we wanted a board with a long nose because it, noses were like that,
Mm.
and then all of a sudden it was like then
Yeah.
there was that Tony Hawk board that had the
And it was also like, because
5
noses were like,
wasn't it?
even if there was a nose, it was like square like a
Yeah.
tail, wasn't it? And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden they went sort of pointy.
and then it started, for street skating, and it changed pretty quick. But that just shows you they must have had a lot of stock, and then all of a sudden they're like, shit, can't
Yeah, it
sell this,
crashed.
and it's kind of
Well, Surrey's used to cut boards down
Yeah.
and sell them. They had
I
loads
heard
of
that,
boards.
yeah.
And you
Yeah.
could buy, so they were cutting down like 8 street boards. So you could go in and buy it, and the tail would be the other way around. So the tail would now be what the nose was. So it was like that long. And then it would have like a nose, which was actually the old tail. It was like really long.
I guess that we've got the stock. There's,
Yeah.
instead of it just
Yeah, they
sitting
would.
there, let's just do
They
that.
would put an ATM board with some bolts through it
Yeah.
on top, draw around it, and then cut it out with a jigsaw and then sand the edges.
Yeah, I think even Roller Snakes back in around that time, they were selling blanks, and when you did your order, you'd say what shape board you want putting on it.
Oh, sick.
And I remember getting Ed Templeton, was it V-ply Templeton?
Yeah, yeah.
remember getting that shape on this blank turning up. And
That's a lot
you
of
had
work.
to cut it yourself, but the shape was drawn on. And then me and my brother, like, with blunt
Oh, so they
jigsaw,
didn't
like,
cut it for you. They
like,
just laid it on and
just
pulled it round.
fucking it up entirely. But we were like, oh, it's the same shape as that.
I mean, yeah, but that's like when you're that age, boards end up looking like a chew toy, don't they? Anyway,
Yeah.
like you just end up with like the whole thing, like the nose and tail, like that long.
Yeah, it's mad how long.
Yeah.
I was like, just a bit of a tangent. The board I'm riding at the minute, I've been riding since May last year, just because it's so fucking expensive, even at cost price. And I've just like, sound like a zombie now, but like,
Yeah.
just trying to get my money's worth out of it because I'm like, it's so expensive, and they hardly ever.
I don't
bring
like
them
setting up new boards either. It's
No, I
not.
don't like
It's
that.
not even that I don't like new boards. I can't be asked
Mm.
to grip a board and set it up. I'd rather just ride the same board. Like it's the same with trucks. I don't like to get new trucks. 'cause
New
it-
trucks is a bad one.
it does my head in. You know, people are like, yeah, but you know, if you change to like this other brand, you're like, yeah, then it would also just be exactly the same. I'd hate it because it's new.
Yeah.
It's the same as getting new shoes. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to get new shoes.
See, I agree with you. There's one, oh God, we might have to cut this out.
No, go on. Go wild.
I was so religiously always Thunder for years and years and years and years, and then only in the last few years I've tried a few others. Tried Ace, pretty good. They work. They grind through really quick. But the truck that you can put on, I think, and you don't need to do anything with, is Slappy,
Right.
and they're really good.
My mate Greasy rides slappies.
They're
He's all
really
about
good.
it.
Yeah,
But I
you
think also he gets some cheaps. I'm not really
You
sure.
just put them on and you go. It's like,
Well, there's nothing more terrifying than a fresh pair of trucks, and then especially if you go to like skate a ramp and you want to
Yeah.
do a front side grind. And
I
it's
thought you
not-
just meant the price of them.
have you seen the new Grind King trucks?
Who cares about a grind
Look,
king?
this is interesting.
Well, I care about the kingpins. Do they redo the kingpins
Can
again
you,
now?
Sean? Can you just Google it? I can't remember what they called them. It's like
And Destructo
it's like
trucks.
Detonator or something like that. It's like the most. This is fucking
Quite a good
This
name,
is-
though. The detonator. Is that because they just explode when you try and grind them?
the Disruptor.
How were those
So-
ventures that you got with
They're
the
pretty good.
were they the Coston ones?
Yeah,
So they're the ones you took the file to. I remember seeing you taking the file to.
I didn't. I just
Is that because you hated them
I
that
just
much?
did
You wanted to
s-
destroy the
Yeah, he
venture
wanted
with the
to
file?
purposely
just-
crack them.
I just did
So is this the new grind?
right.
King?
So the new Grind King truck. This is. I mean, it looks fucking horrific, but they've been sending them out to certain people to test.
Is
but
it
it's
everyone
got-
that rode for Creeper? Did they just get the list?
I was just about to say, can creeper
It's-
trucks come back?
Actually, Grind King. They should probably send us some in because we're bigging it up.
But who rode for Creeper?
I don't think anyone did. Did
Probably
they?
a bunch of
Chris
goths.
Swanson did, didn't he? After his like Indie for Life thing in the 151 video, and then like, there was an ad in Thrasher.
It sounds like Lee Blackwell would have skated for him.
They've got like this
Limited edition
adjustable
mum
base
neck.
plate that like you can adjust the wheelbase three times. It's got the Grind King kingpin with a new sleeve on it where the weak point so it doesn't break.
New sleeve.
It's got a Y-shaped axle so you never have axle slip, which hasn't been a problem since the early 90s anyway.
Yeah, when
And then it's got a special hanger that is in a shape to give people who like that
That groove.
this
the
is
groove.
solving problems that aren't there,
Exactly.
or at least I didn't know were there.
And then, so I was normally what I do at night when I can't sleep, I just sit there looking at shit. And they've got a podcast all about these trucks as well. They're really going
Maybe
for
I can
it.
get invited on the podcast about gull wings.
Fuck, I don't know.
Maybe that's what we should
Or
do for
Grind Kings.
Patreon episode. We get like Indie, Thunder, Grind King,
I used to
Creeper.
ride a Grind King kingpin in the back truck.
Yeah, that
I
was
did
kind
used to
of-
do that. And
What was the benefit of a Grind King kingpin in the back truck?
Well, there were two things when I had them. Was that you could ride your trucks longer because you could grind all the way down
Yeah.
past the nut of your back truck because it would never touch because it was folded in, like the upside down kingpin that you get in the Indies now.
Yeah.
And then the other one was when you were gonna, like me, if you are really crap at doing tricks on mini ramp and everything rings the bell, like you're hanging it out like ding ding on the way in, Like you're just banging it. You put the grind and kingpin in, and then the nut doesn't connect, so you can actually it's almost like a cheap lapper. You could just ride it back in.
I always wanted to. Sean, did we talk about it? Starting a brand where all the pros are fake. They don't exist.
Oh yeah, we did at one.
What was it
point,
like?
yeah.
Like Mad Johnny.
No,
Like there was
we were talking about it, weren't we?
There was like Mental Johnny and like Mikey Two Hats and shit like that.
It
And
just sounds like something questions would come up. With.
just putting
because-
all of these names on boards because kids don't know who pros are on boards anymore. When they come in the shop, they don't
or
know
do
who
kids
Penny
just
are.
not care who pros are?
But that's the thing.
It's a
So
bit of
that,
both.
And there's so many now.
it'd be so good to make a fake company.
Do you know what I mean?
with
Like
fake pro
mid
boards.
'90s, there was like 5 pros, so it was quite easy. Like, and there was
It's
only
too
like
many
10
now.
companies. So you're like, well, I haven't really got my choice.
I really do.
Yeah.
I really think we're nearing the age of
Saturation.
Toby's big pro call. I've spoken to you about this, haven't I?
No, I don't think so.
It should be worldwide online vote that goes out once a year.
I don't know if I can
Right.
care that much.
Wait, there's only 10 pros allowed in the world for a year, and it's all on users' votes.
What? And you
else-
re-vote every year?
Yeah, everyone else's titles are stripped, and we only have 10 pro boards.
Isn't that just called the Olympics?
Pretty much.
But
That's
it,
good. That's
but
good.
it means that the people that vote, well, I hope it would mean that the people that vote for whoever they want to be pro would end up buying their board, which means those pros would
No, because
living it
everyone
up.
used to be like a zombie. They only want the boards in the bargain bin.
Oh, okay, all
That
right,
is
fuck
true.
it.
Unless you want something really specific, then you've got to do it.
I just think kids like there is next to no point having any kind of pro endorsed product now. The only thing
Everyone wants a Mad John board. I'm telling you.
what
Mental Mike.
Veriflex
Yeah.
did it when they're Jeff Jones pro models on Veriflex, and I'm almost 100% sure he's not a real person, but they just needed a pro name on a board for the 80s, so it was Jeff Jones, and he was grinding the roller coaster in the ads and stuff.
Grinding a roller coaster in the ads.
Yeah, Google that Veriflex late 80s skateboard ads, roller coaster or some shit like that. But I just don't think anyone cares anymore, and like, why are these companies like throwing money at people? Like,
But are they really throwing money? I don't know if anyone gets paid for their pro boards anymore, do they?
well, a few dollars every now and then. We probably don't sell that many.
But I mean, I suppose, it's just, skateboarding is just such a different thing now, isn't it? Like, you can have, like, this, skateboarding's like music. There's so many subgenres of skateboarding now that you can be pro in that. And it's that thing, is it, where, like, oh, that person's really famous. You're like, yeah, that person's really famous if you're into what they do. Like, with music, you'd be like, oh, my God, that band, they're massive. You're like, yeah, they're massive because there's only a scene of, like, 5 bands, and they're the one that actually sells any records.
I seen
Pros are like that. It's like, if you're really into handrail skating, that guy's amazing. Like, if you're into that weird, like, street league thing, like, people tell me who's in street league all the time. Like, I have no idea who that is, but I probably would know who Mental Johnny is. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like, yeah, I'm into that. I'd be like, I'm into this guy. I'm into this
Divvy
guy
Jake.
who wears bin bags on his feet and just only slappies uphill. I'd be like, this guy's sick.
Going back into the music side, I don't know if it was I sent it to Sean or Sean sent it to me, but it were like, it's the equivalent of someone being like, that black metal guy's so sick, his tape sold out in 20 seconds because he only made a run of 9.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's-
Same
right,
with boards. It's
Mental Johnny's getting a pro board
so who
this
would
year.
be when we were talking about it, it was like it's the first ever skateboard brand that doesn't actually release boards. They're just NFTs of board graphics, and that was it. And
What's an
you'd got
NFT?
the digital art thing. You know,
it's
you must have
it's a
that.
digital piece of art that you can buy.
Non-fungible
Token.
So it's not real.
No.
It's not like a
Well,
tangible thing.
technically, is anything real?
Here we go.
No, it's like a piece
Get
of art that
comfy.
exists online, and you own it online.
But can't you just right click and save it to your downloads?
Yeah, but then you don't own the original version of it.
But is there original?
I don't really understand
is
it
there,
either.
is there,
I think that whole thing's sort of gone away now.
is there an original version of it?
there.
Is there an original version of it if it's just online?
I know that my friend Gabriel, he was doing a lot of NFT stuff, and he made quite a lot of money out of it.
Yeah, I know someone.
Yeah,
like
like
then he
something
said
with
it's
like a
sort of
monkey with like an army hat on.
Yeah,
sold
and
for
it-
like 5 mil.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like all those things. It's like I haven't got time to worry about any of that. I'm not.
So the brand will be the first ever NFT skate brand where all the graphics are just NFTs that you buy. All of the riders are completely made up. Who's the team?
Mad Johnny.
Mad.
Mad Johnny.
Can we have
Johnny.
Slow Tim?
Slow, yeah.
Is it slow Tim because he just goes really
Don't
slow?
get us cancelled.
Yeah, we just
Who's the
crawls
next
in at
one?
Legends.
Slappy.
Yeah, he just tightens his wheels up really, really tight, so he can't go anywhere.
Uphill Slappy Henry. He
Right.
can be on it.
Yeah.
And one more, and
No,
then
there's 2 more. Bin Bag Brian only skates in bin bags. And Johnny,
These all sound
Don't
like
get us
people that could have
cancelled.
pro boards
And
on
J-
heroin
and
or
Don't
death.
get us cancelled.
and Johnny,
Last one.
and Johnny Two Hats.
Right, there we go. That's
Wasn't there like a silent mic or something that used to ride for?
Blind Ollie Soft Rock, Silent
heroin.
Mike.
But it's like the opposite. Isn't it?
Rough
everyone,
Mike. It
Everyone
was
that
Rough
rides
Mike,
for death,
wasn't
like
it?
everyone that rides for heroin has like a 2-word funny name. But everyone that rides for death is just called like
Steak.
bin
Spoon.
or like
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Milk.
But I'm always backing it as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, at least you know who someone is. You're like, right, yeah, that bloke's
Like
just
when the old death ads used to be in sideboards, it's like new part by Milk
yeah.
out soon. Oh fucking hell! Shall we go back to
Oh,
the?
that's so funny.
Because
Sorry,
we were
let's go back
talking
to,
about where you're from and where you were born and
I can imagine this episode's gonna be a lot of tangents. So
what
everyone's
was
gonna
the,
just bear with us.
what was the early crew that you skated with? Like who was the OG crew and where did you venture out after?
Well, I had like a crew when I first started. There was me. This is pretty typical skating.
There was you, Beans, Milk.
Mick Nult. His name wasn't Mick or Nult. Not a clue. Fresh Jive, because he had a Fresh Jive t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and this other kid, Hair Farmer, who was an absolute tool. And we all skated together, and they were
See what I mean about nicknames?
they were all like, they were all like older than me by quite a bit. So I started skating with them, and then Duncan, like the guy that lived down my street, like we started skating with them, and then we had this warehouse, which was the old postal office in Aldershot, and they all started building ramps in there. And I sort of stopped skating with the other guys that I'd sort of been skating with, which was probably only for like 6 months to a year. And I started skating with the older guys who were like at least 6 to 10 years older than me. And we had that warehouse, I think, from like end of 92, I think, till about the start of 94. And we had like a lot of ramps in there. Like it was actually more like a little skate park.
I was just about to say, did you build on it or was it all like kid ramps where it's like
No,
wood
it was like
leaned up?
proper. Like there was like a vert wall, like
Yeah.
all these banks, and all the ramps were named after all the ramps and all the stuff in it were all things that had been sort of spots that we skated. Like so, we had like the BT banks. There was a bank in a car park in Aldershot at the BT Centre. So we had a wooden bank with a quarter pipe in it, and then there was a car park called the Warburg that had the downslides. We used to skate as banks. So we just made this really big ramp by ripping the roof off an office and sticking it into the floor. And that was transition. And we had like Turtle Lump. There was an actual pump up, but it was like 5 foot tall.
Yeah.
It was massive. But we had like, we used to skate these 2 kicker to kickers in this town called Fleet. There was
I
like a
feel
dirt
like I've
gap.
been to Aldershot. Like, what spots would be there now
Nothing.
for me to actually go?
nothing
And what
in
was the other one? Woking, did you say?
Yeah,
Like,
Wokin's got a lot of spots
I
though.
feel like I've been around. Have we
Yeah.
been somewhere around that area?
Maybe.
Not with me.
No, fuck knows then why would it
But
be
yeah,
there.
like I started skating with those guys, and then we always
and
had
then
this
the
car
kicker
park.
to kicker. Sorry, you were
Yeah,
saying.
that one was called Longmead because there was like this road called Longmead where you used to just get the kicker to kicker that was like, it was just 2 curb bumps with a dirt gap in the middle, and we rebuilt like a version of that. But yeah, and then after that we would just go. It was that era of there because there weren't really any skate parks because those guys were all older. They would drive, and my mum was kind of, she was like, well, they're older, they've all got jobs, that's fine. As long as
Yeah.
you call me, you can do whatever you want. So like on a Saturday, I'd be like 13, and we'd be going to like Milton Keynes to skate all day, or like driving
Yeah.
to Birmingham, or we'd drive to Droitwich and skate a bank. Do you know what I mean? It was like that era, or like Abingdon and skate the BMX, or the Where To guy
That
in
was
the back
sick,
of
wasn't
Rad.
it? The BMX track back
Yeah.
in the day. I went there a few times. That was
Yeah,
sick.
and like the other guys would drive, and then like sometimes we'd stay over places, which quite often I would tell my mum that I was staying somewhere local, but we were driving somewhere like further north. But I got to skate like at that time, like the amount of places I got to skate was
yeah,
amazing.
it's good, isn't it?
Because there wasn't anyone else at my school. It was weird. You go back to school like on Monday,
And you're like the only kid there that does it.
yeah, but everyone else is like, "What'd you do the weekend?" Like, "Oh, I got pissed at the park at the weekend, and like so and so got in a fight. What'd you do?" And I'd be like, "I went to Birmingham and went skating, and then we went to this university house party." And you could tell everyone just thought I was lying. Just like, no,
Yeah.
that didn't happen.
We did it on Sunday. Like, there's a lad that skates here called Ryan and Noah, and they're both getting
Ryan.
really good. Yeah, Ryan, aka Brian, aka Brick or Breeze Block Neck.
Fast pushing Tommy.
He's, but they're both really good on the mini ramp down there. We went to that Coventry Blue Bowl, so I was like, you two would probably like that. Like, come on your first kind of street session,
yeah.
and they fucking. It's like they fucking loved it. Even
But when
just-
you're that
even
age
just
as
being
well,
out.
like the more you go and skate weird stuff, the better you get at skating, I think.
Yeah.
And also, it just teaches you about being somewhere different. That's a different
Yeah,
environment.
it
doesn't
does.
Like and dealing with other people.
Yeah,
'Cause
you can learn a lot from that.
I think
can't
I
you?
learned that from a lot of the older guys. Was actually just how to talk to people. It was
Yeah.
like, I think that was like a really important thing. Was like
How were you talking to people before you realised?
I think I was always pretty good because my parents were pretty good with me. But I think it was more like I do remember my friend Duncan used to do this thing where he was always really, really polite and overly nice to people in shops, and it always, or like in pubs and stuff.
Yeah.
And it would always work out really well for him, and it would just be like you get a good response. So
Yeah.
I sort of was a bit more friendly like that because he was just more friendly with people. Whereas like, you know, like when you're like with other kids your own age, you're like,
You're a bit of a little shit.
mate, and they just don't talk, and you're like, oh right. So if you just talk to people normally, they talk back to you, and you get more out of this.
I said the same thing when we got in the car before we left here because we met at roller skates. So I was like, if we skate anywhere and we get kicked off, just leave.
Don't be a dick.
Because we can go back. Because there's been loads of times, like, because I grew up with a lot of people the same age, like, just being a dickhead to security guards, who now you look at it and you're like, just kind of, if they come out guns blazing like twats, then yeah. You know
Usually
what I mean?
as well, though, you could, if you were polite to people, they'd let you skate for a bit longer, or be like, because we used to go when this makes you sound old. When it was like you could skate on Sunday because all the shops were shut.
Yeah, no Sunday trading. Toby remembers that well.
Basingstoke
so
had a
good.
shopping centre that didn't have any doors on it, so you could go through it. So it had like 2 down ramps, and one of them had like a marble window ledge. So if you went there on a Sunday, there's 2 security guards trying to stop like 50 skaters trying to skate this marble floor in there.
Yeah.
But if you went a bit earlier, the security were actually, you could usually talk them into letting you skate for like half an hour. And if you were just like, look, we're going to go. And they'd be like, all right, we've got to do, it was kind of pre-CCTV. Like, we've got to go round and we'll come back. And if you're gone, that's fine.
So around that time then, how old would you have been around that time when you were skating with those guys? And when
Like
where
13,
what age was you when art kind of started coming into it? 'Cause you've been on it for a while.
I was always into art. Like my mum worked at an art college, and my mum's really like, she is still really into art, and like I just was always into it, and I always liked.
So it was kind of passed down through the family as well.
Yeah, and I was always like encouraged to like, I wasn't very good. Like I had like reading difficulties and stuff at school, so I was like, and then none of that. I had no attention span for books unless they had pictures in. I didn't really see a problem, and it was like that thing where I was like, I liked art. I always like my brother was really into like Warhammer and like fighting fantasy books, and I was like the artwork of it. So I was like into the artwork of stuff, but I never had the attention span to read a book. So my brother would be like, "Can you draw this?" And I'd just draw something, and he'd be like, "Yeah, that's sick. We could do this with this." And he'd be like, "Really?" Because so I just got into art like that, and then my mum would be like, "Do you want to go to this art gallery? You should look at this. You're into this thing." And then like, I think I was just more encouraged as well. Like, and I guess as well, it's like when you're at school and you're good at something, you're sort of more into it because you're good at it, right? And I didn't find it like, it didn't feel like a lesson when you had to do your art lesson. Like any subject where you had to draw something, I was into it. Like I remember being really into biology because you had to draw the diagrams of plants. So I was like, this is sick. You just draw plants.
Yeah.
Like, or like, yeah, you just got to draw this, and like, oh, this is how water goes from one cell to another. Because I guess my brain works like that. Like if there's a drawing of it or you draw it, I can understand it a bit better. So I just got really into that, and then I think I was just really into it. And forever I was just like, I'm going to go to art college, which was a bit of a problem because when I got to art college, I was like, I don't know what you're meant to do now. But since I was a kid, I was just like, I just want to get out of school and go to art college. I don't want to do anything else. Like, I just want to do that. Like, I only want to draw pictures. I don't really care about anything else. I guess, like, with that's the thing, like, I sort of got bribed into trying to read more by, like, my dad would be like, you can have this comic if you're going to read it, but you have to prove to me that you've read it.
Oh, but you were getting them just for the...
But I wanted it because I thought the pictures were sick. So I used to get, like, 2000 AD and, like, Punisher, and I was, like, really into that. And then he did the same with Rad Magazine. He was like, you can have Rad Magazine, but you have to be able to tell me what was in it. You can't just get it and look at the pictures of skating. Which then made me think, now, my dad must have read Rad Magazine because he had to know what was in it.
Yeah.
So, which did mean that I knew it from cover to cover. Do you know what I mean? So
sorry, you could read, but
I don't know. I had this weird thing, like when I was a kid, like I got to primary school and I'd done like infant school ever. And then when you started primary school, I couldn't read or write at all. Like I just couldn't do it. So then they started me reading and writing again, and they thought I had like some problem because this is where it was so, I don't know what it is, but literally it was this literal that I was writing to the end of the line and turning around and writing backwards, but not like mirror, just the words are actually just backwards, but the letters are right around. But no one told me that when you get to the end, you start again there. So they were like, "Oh, you've got this massive problem." And then when I went to like special help for it, I was like, well, no one told me. Like I was just doing it the other way, and it was like the same with everything. It was like reading. I was like, why would I want to read? That's really boring. But like that was it. Like I had real difficulty with it, but I think that's more because I was just like, I'd rather draw pictures or go outside. Like I didn't want to be.
So
indoors.
is that like something undiagnosed?
I haven't
Like
got a clue.
that's interesting, though, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
just that going backwards.
But it was like, but all those things, like loads of those things. Always, I was like, yeah. If no one tells me, I'm like, well, you didn't tell me. Like I didn't know.
Did you not look at the person next to you?
Why would I be interested in it? Why be looking at it? I was trying to write backwards.
Fair point.
Too busy trying to get the
trying to write
spelling
backwards,
right.
mate.
Fair point.
Yeah.
That is
No, I
mental.
think as well, like I was just really into the idea of like drawing and painting and stuff. You know, when you go
Yeah.
to, and then like when you go to like secondary school, I was just really into it. I was like, this is way better.
And your style is very like recognizable, but was that how it was straight away, or is that something that you've
Built on.
built on, or
No,
did you start out doing something else like?
No, I always drew, and then when you go to like college, you try and get into like other stuff. Where you're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make like collages. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make like, actual paintings. You're gonna make like sculptures and all this other stuff. But I always just drew, and I was just always really into it. And I think as well, when I went to university, it was really drummed into you that you can't just draw. There was this real undervalue of drawing, and I was like, but that's what I really want to do. And then I realised that I really just wanted to draw stuff, and I really liked just the really raw. Like when I was at uni, my main part of drawing, like the whole thing when I started doing like graphics for like Forde and stuff, was I would just get any paper and just pens, and I would just draw it. I didn't care about the quality of it. I just wanted to draw, and it was almost more about quantity than quality. I would just draw and draw and draw and draw, and I would draw all day. And I could like fill like books. Like I had like the studio space at university, and I could just fill the walls with drawings in like a week. And I'd do like paintings sort of like that as well. And then you just start to like look at other artists. And you're like, that's cool. I like that. And it's not like I wanted to be like someone else, but I get that like some of my stuff will look like other people's work, because you take this mix of, you're like, that's rad, that's rad, that's rad, and then you make your own like thing. Like,
Well, you're taking all the inspiration and making it into
no one's ever
your
got their
own
own
thing.
true thing, but like everything is like a mix of other things and whatever you're into.
Yeah.
And then it develops as you go on, because you're like, I'm into doing this and I like this, and like this is really cool. Like if you look at anyone's work from years ago, like anyone's artwork from like 15 years ago, it's always changed. And some of it's even just technology, because you're like, well, you know, you could do it like this, even just like ink or like paper, like discovering a technical pencil, like a graphics pencil, was like such a game changer for me when I was doing like more illustration for people. I was just like, oh right, so you can draw it with this thin line, then you can ink it and almost run it out, and then like getting a light box to redraw the ink over the pencil drawing on a separate piece of paper, and then you miss out all the other bit. Then it's like it's completely different. But
He's still doing a lot of things, like obviously with stuff here, but like basic pen on paper, or do you use a lot of digital now?
I use an iPad. Yeah, I've got like a real mix. It depends what it's for and what it's going to be used for and what I need it to do, and like if it's going to be printed or if it's like only for digital, or even if it's just something way bigger that you're like, I need to physically be able to see that. Do you know what I mean? You're like, it physically has to be a bigger thing that you actually have to do. Like, it's a hard thing because you're so bound now by technology. Like everything is so. Well, I guess that's the way it was anyway. Like if you talk to Love and Skate Stu about how you used to make screen prints, I was like, oh, okay, I sort of remember doing it at school, but not in the level where you like cut out all the foils to make the screens, and that's where you do it by hand. It's like so long-winded. Like even just like getting an iPad to draw on, right? If you're doing it as a commercial illustrator, that probably took out of a job that would take you 3 days, takes probably 2 days out of that job. Because you're no longer having to like pencil draw it. Someone asks for like scan it, do it all, send it to someone. They don't like it, so you're like right. Got to rub that bit out, redraw that, scan it, put it back into the file, put it back together. Right, send that to them. Right, no, they don't like it. Right, okay, right. You see, you're doing that, but when you've got like an iPad, you've got like the different layers that you would have of paper.
Yeah, you can just delete it. You can just get
you can make a new layer, or you can make multiple versions. It's like being able to just make 2 versions of the same drawing, but just change them at the same time. And it is like it's like being a carpenter. Like imagine if you had to do everything with like a handsaw instead of a jigsaw, or like you're like, oh, you can only use like one of those drills that you drill a hole with like that instead of like an actual drill. You'd be like, okay, yeah, that's just taken about a week off a job. Like
it's kind of like when we spoke to Dan Adams at Magazine. He said all the articles had to be cut out and you had to lay it on a page, and then you'd get it back and it'd be slightly out of center and you'd have to move it, and then exactly. Sounds like a lot of work. So you are still doing a lot of pen to paper.
Yeah, it's like a real mix. Like it's like a real mix.
What do you enjoy the most? Doing it digitally?
Just drawing.
Just
drawing.
No matter what it's on.
I just want to make stuff.
Have you got the noise on your iPad so when you draw it goes?
No. I've got the paper-like thing on the screen to make it rougher, so it feels more like paper.
Yeah, because surely it feels too smooth.
Yeah, it's
and
too
glidey.
smooth at first. Yeah, but those paper-like things work really well. They're
when,
really good.
When it comes doing it digital like that, have you got like a set? I don't know how to describe it. Like a set bunch of pencils, or can you make your own? You can make your own.
You can make like presets, so you can make the. So I've got a preset for like the pencil and the pen, so it looks exactly the same way. Like you put the pressure on it, bleeds so much. It makes it bleed so much. Or,
okay, so it's not
so it will
super
match,
clean every
no,
time.
so then I can draw stuff, scan it in, send it to my iPad, and then draw it together. So some stuff is an actual mix of physical paper and then actually just digital on top. But things like colouring graphics, like being able to do that instead of having to do it like with a mouse in Photoshop is like so much better.
Surely you can just click it now, like click a fill area kind of thing.
There's all these other shortcuts, but then also you can draw it and then film it, but then you can change it and you go back to it. That's the thing, isn't it? It's like before it was like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
That you can do it. So it really changes what you can do and how you do it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like a really great thing. And then with that, like especially with like board production, even just in like the last 10 years, the amount of things you could do now with printing board graphics is mental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how it used to cost. You'd be like, do you remember when board graphics, you could tell when something was a heat transfer or a screen print?
Yeah, because the screen print, you could see the lines, you could see the overlap of the lines.
Like, I remember getting boards, like when Forde started like making boards, there were some boards that when you would slide it, it didn't like the graphic wouldn't smear. It would actually like almost like crack and come off.
Yeah, it used to.
But now you would never know the difference because like it's printed in the right way. I mean, it's printed in the way that now when you slide it, it moves, and it's all like thick layers. Like I was looking at that Sam Beckett board you got on all that opera one, like all the textures and stuff. It's pretty mad that you can make boards like that now. Like
I can remember years ago having a board where the graphic flaked off, and you could just scratch it, and you'd just see the plain wood stain, and you'd be like, "Oh, that's fucking shit."
Yeah, because
it just felt shit.
But it's amazing now when you do see like old screen printed boards. You're like, wow, it looks thick and heavy and like really nice.
You can sometimes run your finger over certain bits and feel where it's slightly overlapped on the safety lines and stuff like that, or where the graphics bled over.
Yeah, because it's also now it's like for me as well doing graphics now. It's like so when I first was doing a lot of illustration for people, everyone wanted everything in just black and white. And that I got really labelled as like the guy that only made stuff in black and white. Like everyone would be like, I try and be like, oh, we could do it in colour. That really, you do.
You're the black and white guy.
But that was more because people didn't want to pay for screens.
Yeah.
So people would be like, I don't know, that's expensive. And now because of digital and like direct to garment printing and stuff, when I'm like, how many colours do you want to do? Some people are like, yeah, you just do as many as you want because we're going to do it like digital like this. But then when it's screen printed, you really are like, oh, okay. Like I just did a T-shirt. I finished yesterday for this band from the States, and like with that, like they were like, "Oh, we can only do 3 colours," and I was like, "Well, let's make it so that the black is the knockout for the shirt, so we get 4 colours by doing that." And then that's like someone who is like they were like, "Yeah, if we do 4 colours, the cost of the shirt is going to be so much more." Mm-hmm. So it is like
it's because every colour when you're doing screen printing is a screen, isn't it? So
you're paying for an extra screen, and every time you've got to take the screen off, or it depends on how they do it. Like if it's an automated system that prints it, but then still it's like it is so much.
It's more labour.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about early black and white for Heroin, and we'll come back onto it because it's one of the questions here. My favourite Heroin board is the Deerman of Dartwood's his first pro board. I think it was his first pro board. You did the graphic where it's literally the deer in the woods.
Oh yeah, I don't know if that is his first one, but I know it's one of his first.
See, I always thought it was. I think Foz told me that.
You'd have to ask Foz.
I think Foz.
I'm sure Foz gave him one before. I'm sure he had like one that Foz did before that because I wouldn't have done his first one.
He either said that it was his first or it was the first shape.
It's probably the first.
And I can remember Deerman saying that shape fucking sucked because like the nose was so.
Did he not get asked what he wanted?
It was really long.
Because I guess at the time he would probably just skate in old school boards or pop school boards on
I think
barriers.
At the time, like all those things, he wasn't like when you saw those videos, he was always riding boards without nose because I guess going up a barrier, you don't want to.
You don't need a nose.
Yeah,
like
and
I remember that board. I just remember it coming back and being absolutely massive. It was really long as well, wasn't it? That board.
That was all black and it might have had. Did it have any red on there?
Had colour. It was a black and white drawing, and the logos were in colour, like the names.
It's it's my favourite board.
Yeah, the names were in colour. Yeah.
And
because it was like a whole. Because
I think last time we spoke, you said you had the series of it, and you were like, "Do you want to buy it?" And I was like, "Fucking
Yeah, there's
I'd love
because
to.
like Howard Cook was in that run, wasn't he, as well?
What was the first piece of artwork that you got commissioned to do?
The first piece of artwork that I got paid for, or the first piece I ever got paid for, Nick Taylor asked me to draw the artwork for the music pages for Sidewalk, and I got paid £124, and they gave me a check, and it was in between
124.
Weird amount.
Couldn't put it to 5.
And I went, and it was in my gap between being at university. I'd finished university, and I was going to Australia for a year, and I was in that summer holidays, and I was living at people's houses in London and just going skating every day, and I worked. Weirdly, picking vintage clothing for Topshop.
Nice.
Right, on a conveyor belt out of bin bags of like charity shop stuff. And he got me that. And I remember I bought my bag to go to Australia with it. But yeah, it was 3 drawings. It was like the heavy metal, the hip hop, and then there was like another illustrations. One, I can't remember what the other one was. It might have been electronic music. One was a robot, I remember that, and one was like a picture of a bathroom immortal. I remember that. I drew that as it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really stoked. And I remember had to go and have a meeting with Nick. We were going to meet at Stockwell. We met at South Bank, and we skated South Bank. And we were really intimidated by how good Nick Taylor was as well. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know he was actually really good. And I met Pullman that day as well.
Oh, really?
I hadn't met him. I'd met him a couple of times before. I remember him looking at my board and being like, what is wrong with this setup? Like, it was so knackered. He was just being like, you can have an old one of mine. And I was like, no, this one's good. I thought it was right because I had a pile of old boards.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was the first. And then the first time I ever got really, really paid, like properly, was I went skating with Sam Griffin. Do you know Sam Griffin?
I don't think so.
He's from York originally. He lives in London.
No.
So we used to go and skate Moorgate car park in the winter.
Mm.
And it was when I worked at Skate of Mind. And we went to skate there one night, and we went to the pub afterwards. And I remember I didn't have enough money to buy a beer. I was so skint. And we met this guy Russell who owned Silas, and he used to work at Slam, and then he started, I think it was called Holmes, and then he started Silas. And he was saying to me, I met him in the pub, and I was like, who's this old bloke? And he bought me a beer. I was like, I'll talk to him. He's sick. He's bought me a beer. And he was like, I really like your paintings. Like, I saw your paintings in this exhibition with Marcus Oakley and everyone else. And then he was like, would you want to do some work for my clothing company? And I was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, sounds great. And he was like, can you come in on like Monday and bring your portfolio? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I can come on my lunch break. So I went, and I didn't know what a portfolio was. I hadn't got a clue. So I went with a sketchbook and like another 2 bits of cardboard with just piles of drawings. And I had all these paintings that I'd done on bits of cardboard that were just with a tube of paint. And I took them and just laid them out all over his desk, and he loved it. And I didn't realise it's the least professional thing ever. And the thing that I used to do as well is if you ever tried to get work with people, if they offered you a cup of tea, I'd always say yes, because I was like, sick free cup of tea. And he made me like the world's worst cup of tea. But I remember him doing it. And he was like, yeah, we want to do this thing, like, we want to do these black metal homeware collection of your paintings. So we're going to do like mugs and tea towels and aprons and stuff. And then he was like, but that's not really going to make any money for you. So, well, I love all your drawings. Could you make like window displays just of like mixes of all your drawings for us for all the stores in Japan? So I had 3 stores. There's one in like Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya.
That's when you've made it, when you get something in Japan. And
I remember him we were talking about money. And obviously at the time I worked like for absolutely nothing at the skate shop. I had no money.
Yeah.
And I remember I was just about to drink out a cup of tea, and he told me how much they were going to pay me. And I tried not to choke, like, because I'd never been paid like that. Was like more than a month's money working at the shop. And
how was the payment for it? Was it like a one-off thing, or was you there like doing something residential? And how much was it as well?
It was $5,000 for the whole lot, and it was like a month. It was a full-on solid month's worth of work. Like the amount of drawing involved in doing it was amazing. Mm-hmm. So I took all my holiday from the skate shop, and I did it all. And I was just drawing a bits of paper, and I had to go. I just bought my first like laptop. Mm-hmm. And I had to borrow a scanner, and I was like drawing and then like scanning, and then annoying the shit out of Forde, calling Forde to be like, I've got to make this thing that's like 3 of them that are like 10 meters by like 4 meters tall. How do I do it? And he was like, you've got to turn them into vector graphics. You'll never be able to do it. And he was like, and it's just you couldn't send a file. You couldn't send a file via the internet. You couldn't email it. So it was like, right, how do I do it? And it was like sort of pre-burning CDs as well. It was like, yeah, you're going to have to get what were those mental drives?
Zip drive.
I got to get a zip drive. So I borrowed Foz's zip drive to put it all on, and then had to take it to the office and do it, and then help change them there and stuff. So it was a really steep learning curve for me from being like, here's a pile of drawings, to being like, and I wanted to appear like I knew what I was doing, and I had no idea. Yeah. And at no point did anyone treat me as if I didn't know what I was doing. And I really respect that Russell was like, they were all so kind to me. And at the time, James Jarvis was working from that office.
Absolute legend, yeah.
And I would go and just annoy the shit out of James. And I didn't really know that James was like this famous art guy. I just knew he drew the weird egg things.
Yeah.
So I was sort of just like, oh yeah, what you doing? I just go into the office and be like, what you doing, mate? Oh yeah, what's that? How's that work? And he'd be like making like 3D models on the computer of like the toys they were making. I was just like, and he'd be like, do you like this? And then I would just treat it like you were doing. I was like, it's not really my thing, mate. I don't know. It's all right. But
to a degree, being oblivious to that shows the honesty behind it, and it's so instead of sucking up and being.
But it was cool because then he would be like, "Oh, if you're going to do this, you should do this," and he would be like, "You should look at this to draw like this, and then scan it in like this and do this," and he'd be like, "Oh, if you've got to do this, you should turn your files into this to then." And it was just, and everyone was really helpful and nice.
Yeah.
Where did Foz learn how to do all that stuff?
I think he just taught himself.
Yeah. Zip drives were fun.
Yeah, Foz.
So like 100 megabytes. You can get one of those.
I've still got a zip disc at home. So like I found it the other day when I was moving stuff in my garage. I've got like a box of old like I've got a hard drive that's like the size of a laptop kind of thing. It's just like,
it's insane,
and that's probably not even like a terabyte.
No, it wouldn't have been then.
But yeah,
20 gigabyte or something was like, whoa.
Yeah, I don't know how far. I don't know where Foz learned how to do it. Like him,
like you said, self-talks. He's a fucking nerd, isn't he?
Because it was him and Marcus Oakley. So Marcus Oakley was the only person. So you know Marcus Oakley's. Do you know Marcus Oakley's work? So I met him because he was doing all the stuff with Side Effects Urethane, and I put stuff in their exhibitions, and I was still at uni and stuff. And I just remember when I finished uni, Marcus was like, "What are you going to do now?" And I was like, "Get a job." Don't know.
Yeah, don't really
thought
know.
about it. And he was like, "You should be an illustrator. Like your work's really illustrative." And I was like, "Was that an artist?" He was like, "Everything's an artist." And he had that thing where he was like, "Everything's an artist."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Right. Well, I've got a job at the skate shop, but I can work there for a bit." And he was just like, "Right, well, what you should do is you should work out and make some little zines and make some postcards of your work. And then you should go to Borders in your lunch hour or like any bookshop and then look in magazines that you think your work or in books that you think your work would go with. And then look in the back and find the art director and then you should send it to them and then wait a week and then you should call them and ask them if they got it." So I started doing that. And then gradually I started getting like people be like, "Oh, would you want to draw an editorial illustration for our magazine?" Or like, "Would you want to send a piece to be in this exhibition?" Or they'd be like, "Oh, we don't really have a budget for this, but we could give you like 50 quid if you could draw a picture of this car for this magazine and just drop it in on Thursday." And I'm like, "Yep, fine." So he just sort of, I went like that. And then when I started working at Side, like I worked for Greg and Badger and Alan Rushbrook at Side, because I didn't have to be in until 11, I would get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, like work in the morning, and then if I had to drop stuff or take my portfolio to advertising agencies, I would ride my bike there and then be back at the shop in time to do that and then work after work. So it was like, that really helped me being able to work in sketch. And then people like Marcus were really great because they would just be like, "You just need to talk to people." He was like, "You need to be more like," he was like, "It's great being really good at illustration, but they'll remember you if you call them, like, or if you deliver your portfolio. Yeah, you can get an agent, but they'll go in like a group. But if you take your portfolio and agree to do a meeting with like an art director, then you'll get the job." So I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "Yeah, just talk to people normally. And if you don't understand, tell them you don't understand." Because there's all these, it's like in skateboarding, isn't it? There's all these abbreviations in art and stuff. Like DPS. First time I heard DPS, I have no idea what that is. So we're like, "Yeah, we've got a budget. We can get you to do a DPS." I'm like, "What's that?" And then the guy sort of laughed at me and went, "Double page spread." I was like, "Oh, right. So I do both." And I was like, "Do you mean both pages or do you mean one page after the other?" And he went, "Oh, I never really considered you could do one page after the other." I was like, "Yeah, well, that's 2 pages in the spread, but you mean like open, right?" Like, "Yeah." So yeah, it's like all those things. You have to go in as like real idiot mentality.
DPS, eh?
Yeah.
What other ones were there? Give us some abbreviations.
I can't remember. There were all that ones as well, like file abbreviation. I remember the first time I heard like a PDF and a TIFF. I was like, I have no idea what the fuck this is. Yeah. FTP. Yeah, I know all about that. Yeah.
Is that like you?
What does TIFF stand for? Is it an abbreviation of?
I haven't got a clue. It's probably some file thing.
Yeah, but TIFFs tend to be bigger, don't they? PNGs are more compressed.
All I know is that with a
PNG's more. I think TIFFs are definitely bigger files. I think the thing with the TIFF up to a JPEG was that you could save it. I'm probably wrong, and someone will leave a note underneath being like, "He's wrong," but I think it's that you can resave a TIFF as you work on it, and it doesn't deteriorate. I think that's what it is.
So any time I send off like DVD artwork, I always do it as like a vector and a TIFF because they always ask for like a TIFF file.
I hate vectors.
So I just send it. And they can. I think it's quite a good file that you can edit on like a wider range of editing apps and then change it to how you want to change it.
Well, I think going back to the idea of like drawing and then having computer packages and everything else, like, so when I would do stuff like Forde, like exclusively works in vectors, I think, and I don't like vectors at all. I don't like it because it cuts the edges of my drawings and takes all the. I like all the mistakes and all the splodges and all the bits that lots of people are like, this is pixelated. I'm like, it's not pixelated, mate. That's just the bleed.
Does vector also thicken?
It makes everything. You can make it thicker, but it makes everything one shape. Like it makes it one shape.
Yeah.
There's no pixels involved. So
yeah.
But because of the way things used to be, I would have to work in vectors because the files were tiny, so you could send it via email. But now that you can send it in so many other ways, you can make a file like a gig, and you can just send it to someone and be like, I want it this crazy. Like that's a difference in technology again, where you're like, this is actually great. Like
so what is a vector? That isn't that.
Vector is the simplest way of doing it is, like if you get like laser cut stickers, right? A laser cut sticker is like a cut, isn't it? Like that, so it's all completely one shape. But if it's if it's like everything else that's pixels has little dots around it, so it's all like blurry and edge. So when you turn it into a vector, it slices it.
Right.
So what happens quite often is
doesn't it also allow you to stretch it as big or as small as it
you
needs
can make
to be?
it as big as you want. So you can literally take a drawing that's that big. When it's a vector, you can stretch it, and it won't ever pixelate because there aren't any pixels on the edge of it.
Yeah.
This is as far as I know from what I've done with it.
That's all I know.
But then I've never really liked that way it is. But sometimes I'll see when I send stuff to people, they'll obviously have vectored some things and other things. Like logos quite often get vectored, I guess because they make it bigger. But now these days as well, it's like you can make things such high quality. You can make it as big as you want anyway.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest piece of art you've done for someone? Like the final print version of it, like building
surely
size
window
ones,
displays, right?
Yeah, window displays and stuff get quite big. The biggest thing I've ever painted, this is so random. I painted, you get those, like for photo shoots, you get the rolls of paper.
Yeah.
There's the backdrops, so you can do like a picture of someone. Like the biggest one of those. Some guy contacted me, this French guy contacted me and was just like, I want a drawing of a skull as big as you can get it on paper. And I was like, right, well, this is, as far as I know, this is the biggest paper I could buy. It's like how many meters by this many meters. He was like, fine, yeah, I'll do that. And I was like, okay, cool, what do you want? And he just said, I drew him a skull on a bit of paper. And he was like, yeah, I want that really, really big for my house in the south of France. I was like, right, well, how do I get it to you? And he was like, can you deliver it? I was like, no, definitely not. And he was like, well, can you get to Paris? I was like, yeah. He was like, I'll buy you a Eurostar ticket. Can you bring it to my house in Paris? So it got delivered. I bought a roll of that paper. It got delivered, got in a tube, painted it. It was absolutely huge. And at the time, I went and used Badger and Gorman. Those guys had a warehouse space in like northeast London for photo shoots. I went and did it on one of those and painted it, sliced it, got back, and in the end, the tube I used was an old carpet roll from the middle of a piece of carpet, and put it in and had to take it on Eurostar. And when I went to go through Eurostar, they'd have like oversized luggage.
Yeah.
The guy just didn't want to deal with me, so he just let me go. He just was like,
just looked and was just
because
like,
it was like, you could see, it was like, it's not a bike. He was like, what's it now? I went, draw him. And he just went,
painting.
okay.
On your way.
Yeah. And you could tell he was like, where is he going to put that?
So did you go there, drop it off, and then come
Same
straight
day.
back?
Same day.
Quick trip to Paris.
Went actually, my friend Chaz was living in Paris at the time, so I went.
Chaz one?
Yeah. Yeah, so I went and dropped it. I went and dropped it at this guy's house, had a coffee with him, went and met Chaz. I think Chaz had a day off. Had a cup of tea at Chaz's house. We went and skated the Bastille spot, and I got back on the train and came home.
Nice.
Did the fella show you where it was going in his house? Did he ask for like?
He did
help
send
to
me a
put-
photo eventually. Yeah.
How did he put it up? Just
he got
nailed
it?
it
He
up?
got it framed.
Fucking hell, man. That's
Yeah,
massive, isn't it?
and it was on like
Custom
but I
frame,
think the
then?
frame was part of the wall. Like I think it was actually in a piece, like a glass cabinet in an
So he was a
alcove.
minted south of France man. He was pretty
Yeah,
well
yeah,
off.
yeah.
How much was the commission for that?
I can't remember. It wasn't like, I think it was like, he said how much, and I think I said something like, I was like €500. Just
Yeah.
thinking he would, when you get a random email of someone And I tried to Google him and I couldn't find him. As I was like, I don't know, this guy's. And then
500
Goes
euros.
by a different name, maybe.
I think someone had told me he was like a property tycoon or something. Like, so I later on, like someone who's French was like, no, that's this guy. He owns like all these companies. I was like, okay.
We should get you to do the whole side of the warehouse as you come down the street. Big roller snakes in French style. That'd be good,
It would be good.
Just a
Talk
giant
about
snake.
that after. A giant snake?
Yeah.
Just a giant arrow pointing with
Yeah.
entrance under it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I commissioned that.
Yeah.
Your wife's also a graphic designer as well, so I'm told.
She's an artist, yeah.
And
She's an art director. Well, I'd say she's an art director, graphic designer, artist. She's way more talented than me.
And she's worked for some pretty big clients like
Yeah.
Kanye West, Seth Rogen, the Kardashians.
Oh, she worked with them when she worked at Adidas. Yeah, she had to deal with them when she was at Adidas.
Just a brief one, what does she do? And do you like crossover work with each other, or do you like lend a hand with things like
We actually did a clothing collection with Volcom together.
Collaboration.
Yeah, we actually did a collection together for Volcom, which was actually pretty funny because like she made it so much better than I ever would have done, and because of the way she works and because of the sort of all the hats that she wears, like all the different things she does, when you get involved with those other companies, she's like, no, we should do it like this. And then because obviously she worked at Adidas and she's worked for these other companies, like she's like, oh well, she's good at mental abbreviations that I've got no idea what it is, like in-house abbreviations of things. So she'd be like, do you need it for da-da-da? And I'd be like, what the fuck is that? She'd be like, oh, it's for when you do like social media shoots and all this other stuff. But yeah. So she made like crazy backgrounds and layouts and videos, and we're actually working. I've done a clothing collection for Element that comes out this year. And when they wanted to be like, we want to do like the rest of the like videos, everything else to go with it. And I had these ideas and I was like, you should get CCA Studios to do all the animation and everything. I just didn't explain to them that's my wife. I was just like, so they liked her work and like, yeah, this will work. So now she's running all the art direction for that. So, which is actually great because I really like what she does. And then she's made the animations and the videos and stuff. We did the whole, went to France and filmed all the stuff for it. But having Chrissy there, because it was quite funny, like me and her having the idea of what we want to do and then trying to explain it to someone else. They were being so literal with it. We were like, no, it's going to look like this. They're like, well, we filmed it like this. I'm like, but that's not how it's going to look because it's going to be completely abstract and weird after we finish with it. And even though we had showed them a mood board where she'd actually mocked it all up, they still were like not really sure. But I think we're driving them pretty mad with it. Because
when did the Volcom collaboration, was that last year? Because I think we had it in here. We
I
had
did a lot.
a Volcom drop.
I did a ton of Volcom collaborations from about just before lockdown. I did stuff before that years ago for Volcom, and then it was just about the start of lockdown. I got like way more work with Volcom. I did like one collection that was meant to be, originally it was going to be like 2 t-shirts, and then it turned into. So the way I work with a lot of stuff like that, like if you're going to make, like we'll do it with Foz, like or like with anyone else actually you work with, I'll draw graphics, and then quite often I'll draw parts of it as different things. So there'll be like say there's like a skeleton guy over here, and then there's like like with their Days Board, there's like a skeleton guy and a train and a demon. I'll draw them separately and put them together. But then if you're doing it and people are like, we've only got budget for this much art, and I'll be like, okay, well in that case, if you want to do it like that, if I draw this as one piece, you could pull this out and we can make like a sleeve graphic from this, and we can make a back graphic for this, or we can make a t-shirt or a board. So I did that with Volcom, and I don't think anyone had actually, or I don't know, that seemed quite new to them that I suggested that I was like, well, if you're going to do that, I'm not going to do that much more art, but we could do the trousers like this and like this, and you can pull it all from that, and you can just pay me a larger fee to do this. And then that collection was pretty weird, and it sold really well. And then after that, they kept coming back to it, and I think it was because it was like 1 or 2 pieces that you could pull out and make a lot of other stuff with, which is how I work with a lot of stuff. Because quite often as well, because I work in a sort of sketchbook style, I will end up with bits where I'll be like for every graphic I ever do, there'll always be bits that no one gets to see that will just be something I drew, and I'll be like, doesn't really work, I'll leave that out, or I'll leave that out, or like, we're not going to use that. So yeah, like the Volcom stuff like worked really well from that, and I think it helped at the time because I was living in Nuremberg, and I was skating with Chris Fanner quite a lot because he lives in Nuremberg.
Yeah, he's a funny
and
lad.
It was a lot easier as well. It was at that point where it was in and out of lockdowns. They were like, we've got to do a photo shoot, we've got to shoot all the products. Like, well, we're going to get Fanner to be the model, and we need to shoot skate stuff. We'll just send the filmer there, so you'll work with Chris. And then that worked really well because Chris is like a proper professional. He knows exactly what he's doing. So to do the shoot and everything, we did it all in like one day pretty much. And then, and obviously, like you take Chris to skate anything, you're going to get something good, aren't you? Like
I used to be really good at drawing at school. I was in my class because we had.
I know where this is going.
A long time ago, we had textbooks. I could draw a dick way quicker than anyone else. So I used to just get my friends' textbooks and just
quick dicks. You could be pro for his
Quick
company.
dicks. So
Quick
some
dick.
of the other things I was told or read up on is like doing you'd worked for the
He was
sub-brand
told, he didn't
of,
read
like-
up.
No, this
He was
this
told.
was this morning actually.
Okay,
So sort
that you
your
were-
fucking facts
that,
out.
that you were told.
Factual letter.
So working for sub brands like Toyota,
Yeah.
what like
Well,
What-
technically, it's I did a lot of work from about.
and who were some of your biggest clients?
Well, I did a lot of work. So Toyota in the States have like a sub part of their company that's meant to be like the economy car that's better for stuff called Scion.
Yeah.
And originally their marketing was, they didn't really advertise at all. They put on like art events. They had an art gallery in Culver City in LA, and then they would put on music festivals and stuff. So I did work for. There was this t-shirt company out of Japan, but they were based in LA, called 2K by Gingham, and they used to license artwork. So that was actually really cool. So they sold in places like, do you remember Magma, like the bookstores? They were like arty bookstores and stuff. They would sell in like music, like they'd sell in like the Tate Gallery, like shops. So they would do these t-shirts. So the deal was they would license your work. So I would just send them loads and loads of drawings. They would like put it in the catalogue, like mocked up. And if it sold or if shops wanted to take it, then you got like royalties.
Commission.
But yeah, so you got like these royalty payments every 3 months. But it wasn't like just me. It was like me, people like Marcus Oakley. But then there was like, they licensed like Andy Warhol, Yoko Ono, like all these other people. Like
Yoko Ono does art.
yeah,
Is it as shit as our music as well?
you didn't know Yoko Ono was an artist as well as a musician.
I just know from ruining the Beatles, man.
Oh, you're one of those
Yeah.
conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, she ruined the Beatles. She got John Lennon shot. It was all a plan.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, so they licensed all these other artists and stuff. So like Jeff McFerry, do you know the guy that did the Love Heart that does the Comme des Garçons shoes with the eyeballs on it?
All
That-
on Converse shoes.
So
Yeah.
that originally was a 2K by Gingham shirt, and he bought a house with the royalties he got from that t-shirt with them. Apparently, that's what one of the guys at the thing told me. So I did that, and then they did it. They did an exhibition with Scion at their gallery in LA. So that was the first thing I ever got flown somewhere. So I flew to LA, did that, and I'd never done an exhibition that wasn't just like mates or like a small gallery. So I went,
Yeah.
and they had like technicians to help you hang your work and stuff. But then I was just like, what am I meant to do? I'm here for like 4 days to hang
Just
this
stand there
exhibition.
looking at people hanging it up like, yeah.
Also, I helped the guy who was a technician. I helped him hang it all. And then I was like, well, I don't know anyone. So I went out for beers with him in the evening. And then I had another mate who lived in LA. So I went skating with him and stuff. And then the next day I just went back to the gallery because they were there and helped out again. And I just sort of like hung around and helped out. And then I think that they just were into the fact that I was helpful. And I was sort of like just chatted to everyone and wasn't really that bothered about it. And
Because
then-
I bet they put up with some people that like
Yeah.
Some right
won't
twats.
show up,
Yeah.
they won't step foot in there.
I guess so. And then like they did, I didn't realize they did other music stuff and other art stuff. So then they would be like, oh, we've got like, so they would put out records and do like shows. So the deal was like, they would do like a show that would be like Thursday night at some place in like Atlanta. And it would be like, they did all these rock shows. So it would be like, I don't know, like the Melvins and
Yeah.
Cannibal Corpse. So I would do the poster for it and they would have like a proper budget because they're a car company. They would do it, and then I would do like the banners for the website and everything else, and like the little things. And then they'd be like, "We're having another exhibition, another group one. Do you want to be in that? Like, we're going to fly you to LA to do that again." And they were like, "Oh, we're going to do like," they'd have like a conference about like art and music. They were, "Oh, do you want to come to that? We'll fly you to like Wyoming." And I was doing all this stuff for them, and that was really great for like a few years. So, and then that helped me get more work out of stuff, like because I just met more people and got involved. Like, so there would be other people from record labels, and I would meet them, and then they would be like what you did for that poster, do you want to do this? So that was like super helpful. And it went on for like, I think it was from like 2006 until about 2014, I think was the last thing I did for them.
So that was a sub brand of Toyota.
Yeah,
It
they
was
still do the
also
cars, but they
was a
changed their
car-
marketing now. So they actually advertise with us because I guess it wasn't selling any cars.
It's mental,
I was
isn't
about
it?
to say, like,
The
what was the-
marketing budgets for like corporate companies like that. it's
Sending
just-
stuff to exhibitions was mad because I would be like, right, they'd be like, you've got this huge wall. They'd be like, right, well, I've made all these paintings, all these drawings in frames, and they're all A5, but it's like 15 boxes of drawings. They're like, yeah, fine. And then they would just be like, just call FedEx and put it on this. But like the fast one, and you'd be like, and then you'd see the bill for how much Toyota were going to pay for the postage. You're like, okay, cool.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I realised that when I was there, because they were really nice, I'd just be like, there was like a couple of times I was there, and people would be like, we're going to do like a skate trip to Oregon. I'd be like, cool, well, I'm in LA, so I'm just going to ask if they'll change my flight and see if I can pay. And I'm like, can I pay to change my flight? And they'd be like, we'll just change it. So I'd just be like, right, can you change it so I fly out of Portland? And they'd be like, yeah, okay.
So how did that tie in with Toyota and cars and?
Because it's like their marketing, because Scion is like their economy cars or like more green efficient cars. It's not so efficient now, but I guess. But they were trying to market at like young people, and they thought like music and like
well,
art
music and art is the
yeah,
way.
and it was. I think it was a very revolutionary, different way to look at how to do the market for it. And I think in some respects it really worked because there were so many people that I met through it and became really good friends with. That were all just like, it was such a great thing that they were doing. And then when they eventually were like, we've got a new marketing guy for the whole of Toyota, and he was just there was like this conference thing we went to, and actually Chrissy was talking at the conference. It was about like doing artwork for album covers and stuff, because she'd done a lot of album covers and things. And the guy gave a talk at the end of the conference, and literally was like, he pretty much just went, all you freeloaders, there's no more work after this, it's done, we're going back to normal market. And it was just like, oh, cool.
Would you say that's one of the most obscure kind of jobs you've had in your career? Like, what's one of the most obscure things that you've been asked to draw or paint, or like a client that you just, when they've hit you up, you just be like, why them?
Oh, you get loads of just random stuff.
I mean, the French guy's pretty obscure to just be like, I just want this.
Yeah, when it was magazine, when there was editorial pre like the 2010 like economic downturn before print died, the amount of random magazines I did, illustrations for the whole of the Bavarian opera. Like that's the real one. Some woman from an opera house that runs from Vienna to Munich and a bunch of other places contacted me to do Verdi's Requiem. And was like, could you illustrate all these things? And it was like a long list of things. And they were like, we saw this stuff that you did that was on like, for a little while, I was like, I really like old, like found old paper that's all like gone brown and like discolored and stuff. Yeah. And I'll draw on that with pencils. And they were just like, would you illustrate this for us? And they sent me all this stuff in German, and I had to like redraw it all and like illustrate it, like, yeah. And that was really cool. That one was really fun as well, because then they printed it as like an actual book that came with, when you went to it was like a program and an actual book to go with the whole opera. I was like, that was pretty cool.
Did you say your mum was an artist as well? Or?
Yes, yeah. My mum was a secretary at an art college, but she's really into art. But because she worked at the art college, she worked for a while. Like when I would have inset days at school, I would just go to the art college and I'd go and be in the lessons. Like, oh, nice. And what was cool as well was like at the time they had like the art library, and like when she'd be like, just go to the library and ask if you could borrow a video. So I'd be like I watched all of the different versions of Invasions of the Body Snatchers on one of those days. And the guy just let me watch it in the room at the library in the art college in Farnham, and it was cool because he was like, "Oh, you got the black and white one. You want to get the one with Donald Sutherland?" Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, you like that?" And he was like, "Have you ever seen like Day of the Triffids?" I was like, "I don't know what that is." And he'd be like, "Watch that," and it would just be like, "Oh," because the guy who did all of the animatronics and everything for American Wolf in London, for a little while, he lectured at Farnham. Right. So they had all of this stuff from that, like all these books and all this stuff. So I remember being really into going and looking at that.
It must have been really nice for your mum to be interested in art, then to have her son go on to do like, you know, the one with the opera house, like crazy, like bizarre projects.
Yeah, I think sometimes my parents are just a bit like, yeah, I think what's funnier for them is explaining to other people what I do. Right, yeah. And I think that's funnier because like, I could say, because my dad worked for the government. My dad worked in the department, like working pensions. So it was quite funny that like people be like, "Well, your son then he'd be like, I draw skulls."
It's not like that though, isn't it? It's
like he's a skate. Oh yeah, your son. Yeah. He's in his 40s. He draws skulls. Skateboarder. Yeah.
But for, you know, big brands. What are the other bigger brands you've done stuff for? So obviously Toyota with the offshoot thing and
Olympus cameras. Yeah. I don't know. Like I've done most shoe brands.
Yeah.
I actually thought about. So we were talking about this. I was actually skating with Seth Curtis the other day, and we were talking about he rode for Adio, and I was like, I did artwork for Adio. He was like, "Did you? Who else?" who else did Adio? And I went, well, I also did Planet Earth t-shirts. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, Planet Earth. And then I was like, footwear brands, like just in skateboarding, I've done like Adio, Emerica, Vans, Etnies, who else have I done? Nike SB.
And is some of that like
Loads of
insole,
just t-shirts.
like
It's the amount of t-shirt graphics I've done is insane. Like,
so I thought it might have been like insole designs, box designs.
Some of it has
kind of
been.
stuff like that.
Yeah, some of it has been, and then some of it is like, or it's just posters and stuff, like clothing brand wise.
Yeah.
Like at one point, it's quite funny because also because you are freelance and you're working for other people. There's at one point I was doing work for Crew, Volcom, and Altamont all at the same time.
I was going to get on to Crew, like how you ended up working for Crew and going down that road as well.
Well, Crew.
So I know Foz had stuff to do with Crew and Altamont.
Well,
right?
I got work from Altamont, not actually because not actually Foz was working there, but I actually got work from Altamont through this other guy Brad that I'd done work with, and he'd worked at Volcom and I'd done work for Volcom, and then he got me to do Altamont stuff. But that was quite random as well. But that was also because it's all the same. It was all the same house. I'd done work for Emerica, like probably the second or third like page job I ever got was I did a t-shirt graphic for Emerica.
Yeah.
But that was like a weird time as well, where they would send you. They had like these packs that they would email out, like I guess like PDFs that were just like, for this season for Etnies, these are all the ideas we want, and for Emerica it's going to be this, and for 32 snowboard boots it's going to be like this. So come up with some ideas and we might pick one. And when you were like starting out, that's great because you're just willing to do all that stuff. Or people are like, oh, you could make some proposals, like propose some graphics.
I was going to say, when it comes to it, do you like draw something up and think, oh, that'd be good for these? So I email it, and then if they get back in there like not quite our thing, you like send it to someone else. You know what I mean? Like if you've
not really. Usually it's more a thing that these days, like because I'm further on in that part of my career, that it's more that people want what I do because I've become now more like my own brand. Like it's like if you
more established in what you do.
Yeah, and it is like people come to me because they want it to look like I did it.
Whereas before you would have been sending it to people.
I'm quite happy as well. Like there's this random guy in Newcastle has like a coffee shop called Sorcerer Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
He gets me to draw him Robert Crumb rip-off stuff for his posters. I don't know if he knows what I do otherwise, but he'll pay me to do it, and I'm quite happy just to draw Robert Crumb style cartoons.
Yeah,
I could do it quite easily. He does. He's never said no to the amount of money I've asked him for. I've done like a sorcerer for him that would look like I did it, and then he asked me to do all this other stuff, and since then it's just been that. And I was like, I don't mind doing that. That's what I do. I'm an illustrator. I illustrate things because it was different when I first started. It would be like I remember for a while, I was doing for music magazines. I was quite often asked to do portraits of like musicians.
Yeah,
and it was just really funny because I would just draw people, and sometimes people would be like, "Don't think that really looks like them." And he'd be like, well, it does, but what doesn't look like them? Like I remember drawing this picture of Kate Bush, and they were just like, doesn't really look like Kate Bush. And I was like, it's quite hard to make because they wanted a particular. I guess they didn't want to pay the photographer for the photo, so they were like, we'll pay you to draw the photo. So I drew it, and I was like, yeah, but that's what Kate Bush is like now. It's not like a famous picture of her in like the 80s. It was like quite an obscure picture of her.
Have you ever done any stuff for the video games industry?
No. Have I done anything? I did some stuff for EA games to do with the fantasy thing, but it was more storyboarding. I did a little bit of storyboarding for people. That's quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's quite weird. Like, through Chrissy, like, a couple of times, she's got friends who are, like, photographers and stuff, and they would be working, like, there was one with, is it Kendrick Lamar? Like, that guy who's...
Yeah.
And they were doing a music video and they needed storyboarding. So I drew the storyboards for them to then show in their presentations, which is quite fun as well because that's not like a finished thing. So I don't have to polish it.
Yeah.
And it's
How
just
do you do those storyboards? Do you still do it in the style of what you do everything else, or have you got different drawing styles to suit
I just draw it really loose. Like it's just really loose.
Yeah.
And quite often it's like in a box and moves on to another one. And that's much more prescriptive than what I would usually do because it would be like, we need like this guy flying who's looking up and doing this with these things behind him, and you're like, right, I can draw this. I've got a weird one. I did. Me and Chrissy did all the illustrations for the guide's handbook for Girl Guides, and we had to do thousands of illustrations in like a week. So what we were doing was Chrissy was just mocking it in Photoshop of what we need to do, and I was quickly drawing it and scanning it in and sending them, and it was like thousands, and some of them were so random. It was like an old man is trying to talk to you on the bus. So I'm like, bus, old man, like trying to draw it. But it was one of those jobs where it was just like, there's this much budget through an agency. They'd asked her to do it, and she was like, that's not really what I do, but
I know a great agent. I know a great artist that can do it.
yeah, because they didn't really care. I just drew it really childlike. It was really, really.
That's kind of a good dream team, isn't it? Like if someone approaches
Yeah.
you for something, but she can do it, and someone approaches her to do it, but you can do it. It's good to.
Well, we did it the other week. Like this insane woman who's like rich from LA somewhere she's starting like some yoga retreat, and she'd made a logo in AI, but she didn't like that. She wanted it to look like it was drawn by hand, and I don't know why she's asking Chrissy to do this. And Chris was like, yeah, I can get it drawn in by hand. So she just sent it to me and I just redrew it. I go back to Chrissy. She did some stuff with it in Illustrator and sent it back and was like, this is amazing. How did you do it? And she was like, my husband just drew it. Like,
just did it by hand.
Yeah,
like you literally
wasn't done by a computer. You wanted it to look like it was drawn by hand,
Yeah.
so he just drew it.
What was one of the, if you don't mind mentioning, what was one of the biggest commission pieces you've ever had?
Biggest payday.
The biggest, yeah. Like what's been your best payday from some of your work? Because naturally, listening to it back, you'd think like Toyota Cars Unlimited.
No, it doesn't. It quite often it hasn't happened to me. Like when I first started doing illustration, that era of like late 90s, early 2000s, if you could get like an advertising job, like with an advertising agency, you would hear about people being like, oh, I've done, like for example, this guy that I worked with, we shared a studio, this guy called Johnny Voss. Actually, Paul Parker, he had my studio space after me. So he did, do you remember when Sainsbury's did all their Sainsbury's value stuff? And they had little drawings of everything, really weird, wiry drawings of everything on all the packages.
Yeah.
So Johnny that I shared a studio with, he got that job. So every single one of those drawings, he got £3,000 for, right? So he was doing 12 a day. So he had to draw everything. Everything that Sainsbury's sold, he had to draw it. And he had to redo all their text. They bought the font of him. And then after a year, they wanted to do it again. And he only had the licensing for a year. They had to pay him again. He bought a house out of it. He ended up having to employ like an actual accountant to come in once a week to sort out his tax mess that he was in. So you mean I never got that. Like,
so you mean like if they sold strawberries, he'd draw a little strawberry and you'd get paid for that?
Yeah, because every day it was a new thing because they didn't know what they wanted. And then they were like, we need this, and because it was for an agency. And then he did the same thing for Halifax, where he was drawing like houses and the streets and stuff. But I never got any of that. I mean, I did a poster for MC Saatchi for Wanna Do Broadband. That one was quite good. Like that was pretty well paid. And I did it, and it was meant to be a poster that was in a video that was part of the advert, and then they made it billboard posters, which was actually pretty cool. Like that was. I remember getting the tube, and it was like a heavy metal font with like my artwork on it. It was meant to look like someone's bedroom wall. That was just like, that was pretty weird.
That's insane, isn't it?
We're in the wrong profession. We need to. I mean,
Well, it depends what you want.
you can.
Yeah, but how often do you get paid? Because I get paid sporadically and not very often.
You can do great cocks. I've seen them.
Yeah.
You can do great cocks.
Well, the thing is, it takes someone that can draw a great cock to have a great cock.
I mean, he must have.
And what did you say? Tiny balls, regular shaft. Is that your quote?
Didn't say that.
He has said it. If you go through.
Sounds like another guy that rides for your mysterious skateboard company.
With all the brands that you've done colos for, do you get and keep one of all the products that your stuff gets made on?
Not anymore. I used to keep one of everything.
Because I imagine it could be...
It gets too much.
No, so usually if there's something I really think is pretty crazy, I'm like, yeah, can I have one of those? And then I usually keep like a photo of it. Like all the magazine stuff I did, I originally kept all the magazines, and now I've just got like a few boxes where I cut the pages out. The cover and the pages is what I got.
It gets too much.
Paperweight's too much, isn't it? From moving house to house, like all the sidewalk magazines just being like, oh, because Pullman's got one little picture.
I did keep one of each board, and then I sold tons, and I gave loads away. Like I had, it was something mental. Like I had like 20 boxes of boards. It was actually during lockdown when no one could get any boards, and I was living in Germany, and my friend Matthias that has Bread to Brew, the skate shop, they couldn't get any boards, and he was like, do you have any boards? And I was like, yeah. And I started going through all these boxes, and I was like, actually, I could just sell you like all of these boards. And I sold him like, I think it was like 25, 30 boards, and was just like, you can just have all these, because it was all stuff that I was like, yeah, it's really cool, but what am I going to do? Leave it leave it in boxes in my basement in Germany.
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? Like people, like I mean, I've done it as well. You hoard and keep boards you like, and then
Last time I moved, I majorly slimmed everything
they just live
down.
in boxes under beds and in cupboards. And...
I think the only boards I've got now is like if it's someone I know, met, or I filmed, and they've got a board. I try to keep it kind of like.
Pro boards.
I've got my own pro boards. Yeah, of course I fucking have.
Have you still got my board?
Yeah, signed.
Ooh, nice.
When you wrote on it, would you like to make in fuck Berserker?
Oh yeah, that was sick.
You know what that's from? What was it from?
It's from Clerks, isn't it?
Berserker. Would you like to make in fuck Berserker? Yeah,
it's the Russian guy, isn't it?
Got Sean's board next to my Dark Throne. Goth
but
in the woods.
having too many boards, it's just that they weigh so much as well.
Yeah.
That's.
I think I've only got.
At least if you got them in boxes, you can sort of pile them up. But then, like, I've got 4 boxes in my garage now, and I'm still like, I went through them the other day and was like, actually, no, I don't want to throw any. I don't want to get rid of any of these, but I was still like.
Well, if it comes to selling any for very fair price, and
do you want the whole Zero series? Actually, someone messaged me on Instagram a while ago asking if they could buy that whole Zero series that I did. I was like, yeah, and then I totally can't find them in my Instagram message feed to be like, do you want to buy it? Because I was like, I only don't want to sell the Jamie Thomas one. I was like, I want to keep that one because I was like, because I was a major Jamie Thomas fan because I loved Zero. Well, yeah, he's dead now, isn't he? Oh no, he's still alive. No, yeah.
But have you still got that OG Heroin series?
What
the Deerman, the Foz?
I've got all of those.
Howard,
I think I pretty much got all the Heroin boards I've done up until recently, until he got to the point where I was like, also now that
started putting them in fucking foil.
Well, now also because they're so big, aren't they? Like, what? They don't fit in boxes. So what am I gonna do with them?
I think I cut down from like 6 board boxes of 10 in each board box to when I moved maybe 3 of 10 of each. So yeah, about 30 boards.
But like I've kept all I've got most of the Heroin ones. I've got the first one I did for Antis. Well, I got Steve Forster's one I did for Antis and Hugo Liard's the first 2. And Julian Dickman's like the other one I did with the pig on it. Mm-hmm. And I've got like the one I did for Real, the one I did for Cliche. I've got one for Cliche, one for Real. Most of the original ones I did for Creature. Like the first few that I was really, really stoked on. Yeah, and then after that, because it just got to the point where it was like so many different like brands. Like I've got that Zero series because they all can, and I've got the wheels that I did for Zero as well.
Can you please search the Zero series, Zero Skateboards?
What was it called?
French.
The series?
I don't know. It was like black. It was black and red. Like it was like it's all like knights and stuff. Yeah, it's fun working with like. Oh yeah, there you go. That's an Eric Dressen one underneath that as well. Yeah, so I've got that. I've got all the ones I did for Eric Dressen. Like that was like a major like thing. Like getting a board for Eric Dressen.
Because you're a friend of good Eric's, aren't you?
Yeah, Eric's good.
He messaged Roller Snakes the other day. He found his Roller Snakes membership card from when he visited in the 80s. And it says on there, expiry date never. I guess Paul had done it. It's quite funny.
That's amazing.
But talking about
like I didn't keep any of the Black Label ones, and I don't really know why. I think it's because I got the Black Label series that I did, and so many people were like, because they're so hard to get hold of, like in this country. It was just like so many people were like, oh, like I'd ride one of those. I was like, well, you have that one then, and you have this one, and then like, you know, I was like, people were more stoked on it. And I was like, well, I also have that thing with boards. I'm like, it should fulfill its destiny. It should go and be skated, and then if it's still okay, I'll have it back. Like I've got a couple that are like have been skated, and I've just kept them afterwards. I was like, that's fine. I just do that.
I think when it comes down to it, I think I'm only gonna keep a small handful. Like,
well, I think as well for me, it was like doing stuff for brands like Black Label or Zero and things like that. Where you're like, these are all brands that when. Like we were saying earlier, like when there weren't that many brands and it was hard to get hold of stuff, it was like like I was so into Zero, like the first 2 videos, I was so into it. Like
they were incredible.
Yeah, and I the idea of doing it then was just like I'm never gonna get to do that. And same with Black Label. Do you know what I mean? I was like,
so did Jamie reach out to you for the Zero ones?
Yeah, I think what actually happened with the Zero ones was when Chris Pullman worked for Black Box.
Yeah,
and he was wearing a T-shirt I gave him. And he went to the office and Jamie Thomas said something to him about the T-shirt. And then he got in touch with me through that and asked if I would do graphics. And I was like, yeah, of course, I'd love to. That'd be great.
That's sick, the chief.
So I did it through that. Like, that's like, it was like the same, like when I met Eric Dressen, I didn't want to ask, can I do your board graphic? But then when he asked me, I was like, oh, that's so rad. Like,
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's nice to meet someone that's like that since like you're a kid, you've always been like into like. It was crazy. The first time I met Eric Dressen as well, like talking to him about board graphics, and I was like, because you can ask him and ask his, I was like, never really liked any of your Santa Cruz graphics. Always liked your Dogtown graphics, and I really liked it when you rode for 151. I was like Too Loud for the Crowd. His section, Too Loud for the Crowd, is so amazing.
I forgot he rode for 151.
Yeah. I think it's one of the only things I knew about 151 was like, for a little while, they sold 151 boards at Surrey's. And I had an Eric Dressen 151 board. And then I had a Pigpen one as well after that. And I had that Too Loud for the Crowd video. And I was
Sam
like...
Hitz was on 151, was that?
I think Jason Adams was at one point as well, wasn't he? Maybe.
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
maybe. Yeah,
Possibly.
Hewitt, wasn't he?
Because Sam Hitz had the ad doing the full Nelson in the pool.
Yeah.
The front side Smith grind.
Oh, we've
To
spoke
lip
about
slide
this.
to fakey backside Smith revert. So you're doing the full.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that how you say Eric Dressen's name? It's not Eric
I've
Dressen.
always said it.
It's Dressen,
Eric Dressen.
I believe.
I thought,
But you know him, he's your mate.
yeah, that's
so
what I mean.
Dressen.
So
My
Eric
favourite
Dressen.
kind of Dressen. Eric Dressen.
Like
Yeah, that's
salad
it,
dressing.
Yeah.
So before we go on to more skateboarding, because obviously you've got plenty more skateboarding to talk about. You've done a lot of artwork for bands.
yeah.
You've got a metal archive page, which is sick, like the metallic,
Have I?
the Metallian website. Yeah, there's a picture. There's
Done
a
his
picture.
research.
He probably set it up.
There's a
so he
picture.
could say it.
It lists all the bands that you've done artwork for, and it actually says like Mighty Funeral French is your name on it.
Oh, it's probably not me then, it's the other one. The rapper. You know there's a rapper called Funeral French.
Look up Funeral French.
He's been doing all his research on that guy.
Metal archives.
There's a rapper called Funeral French, and when I first got the Instagram name, he tried to buy it off me.
How much did he offer you?
Not very much. So I was like, no, mate, you're all right. Because before that, it was Frenchcraft, because someone else, I think he'd had it, got rid of his page, and I just thought, oh, I'll have that then.
Yeah. It's like,
Well, I guess it's like, you know, when people started buying domain names?
yeah.
Like when everyone
Yeah.
would just, like, Chrissy was telling me like a while ago, there was someone she'd known that had done that originally and was just buying names of companies and buying all of it, like .org, .co.uk, like just kept buying names of everything, and like just words.
A couple of people did it for. I read a couple of people did it when Instagram was taking off with like Nike SB, Adidas.
Yeah.
So they'd contact them and say, "We'll give you 150 grand for this Instagram handle." It was mental.
If anyone wants to buy my Instagram handle, I'll sell it.
Somebody offered to buy mine the other day, actually.
Did they?
What is yours?
Shaun of the Sad.
Quite like it.
It's from when I used to make like
How much did they
sad
offer you?
emo music. Not much, like $1,000.
Not much. I would have changed.
I
mine.
would've-
Oh, fucking
I would have
taken
changed mine
that.
Yeah, I
to
was
Sean,
thinking it.
Sean of the Sad _1.
You
Yeah.
could have just come back and just changed all the S's to 5s and
Or just
stuff like that.
Shaun of the Glad and just be done with it.
Yeah. So when it comes to doing the artwork for bands like that, is that one where they see your work and they contact you, or is there been occurrences where you've liked the band's music and you've been like, hey, I've got this, and it also says your birthplace says USA for some reason.
That's quite nice, isn't it?
Pretty
Do I get a
interesting.
free visa for that?
I think so. Yeah.
Trump's
Yeah.
getting me. I won't get deported by Trump then.
Just screenshot that when you go through customs.
Yeah,
and
it
be
says
like-
it on the internet though.
So how is it with working with bands and like I said, do you
usually it's
contact
just
some of
someone
them?
sees your work and then they're like, would you do this? I mean, obviously with like Decrepit, it's like my mate Danny, it's his band, and then obviously there'll be other people that like his band, and then I'll be like, would you? It's like everything. It's like skateboarding. People are like,
Just
I like
barrel
I like
rolls.
what you did for them. Do you want to do that for us? Like the stuff I did for Exhumed was because actually I met one of the guys that worked at Relapse Records in the States, and it was like one of those Scion things. And I got talking to him, and we were talking about music, and then he sent me some records,
Mhm.
and then he was like, "Would you want to do work for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course. Like that'd be amazing." And then I did. I can't remember. I did some work for. I can't remember what the other bands were on there on Relapse. There were some other grindcore bands I did some work for, and then he was like, "Would you do stuff for Exhumed?" And I was like, "Of course." Like one of my favourite bands. So,
Yeah.
What's grindcore?
What is grindcore? Talk to us about the differences between
Well, isn't
grindcore,
grindcore like a
and
mix
death.
between like extreme punk and then death metal? It's Napalm Death are grindcore.
Oh, okay. I like Napalm Death.
Like Pig Destroyer is
or their
grindcore.
first album.
Oh, Pig Destroyer.
Pig
Sick.
Destroyer.
Yeah.
Good band.
What was the music you used to make? Like synth stuff?
Still makes.
I make like some dungeon synth stuff, and I make like black metal.
Dungeon synth.
See, I never knew what Dungeon Synth was, and then when someone played to me, I actually was like, "Oh, the music in between." Morbid
Yeah, just
Angel
black
songs
metal
and albums.
interludes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "It's the music in between songs and Morbid Angel albums." I was like, "Right, okay, I get you. Yeah, I'm down with that."
Who are some of your favourite grindcore or death metal bands? That's what Joxer wanted to know.
All of them.
It's an easy
Well, it
stuff.
depends what week it is, isn't it? Really? Like,
So
This week.
I've been listening to Weregoat a lot this week. That was who I was listening to yesterday. Like, who else?
Can you
Proclamation.
soundbite that bit where he just said that for the trailer?
Yeah, mate, yeah.
Should we look on my phone and see what I listen to?
And while you're looking for that, because obviously, like the nickname, the name Funeral French, Funeral Fog's Mayhem, and you also had a zine with Alan Glass called Funeral Fog, right?
Well, he had the zine.
I thought it was like a joint.
Naked Whipper.
Nice.
Demon Sea, Intimate, Goat Semen, Imprecation.
Oh, Goat Semen are always
Witchroom,
good.
Undertomb, Necrotomb, Blood Freak, Anal Vomit, Bestial Warlust.
Anal Vomit's good.
What's the
Avulsed.
shortest track length out of all them?
Probably Napalm Death
Probably
Shoot.
none of them because they're not really grindcore. But yeah, Napalm Death's got some pretty short ones. But
Like 2 second long.
I mean, I
song
like it.
called
Do you like
Decent.
Internal Rot? Like a lot of I quite like. In the last couple of years, there's quite a lot of good stuff coming out of like Australia, like out of Melbourne. There's a lot of good stuff like Gutless, and then
Yeah, there is black metal wise as well.
because Melbourne has such a like small scene. Loads of those people are in different bands, like
Bit crossover.
like Cemetery Urn, and then there's all those other bands that are in those. But then yeah, like with death metal, like Gutless are really really good. But then there's like Faceless Burial. But then those guys are all in the same band, which is called Internal Rot. But Internal Rot is probably one of my favourite grindcore bands at the moment. And there's another band called Headless Death that are pretty close to that as well. Another band called Blood Rule as well. They're already
What would you call your band if you had a band?
Exploding Pregnancy Test.
What would you call yours?
Fucking no idea.
That's good.
Can't-
Exploding
can't-
pregnancy.
Actually, that was mine. That was mine. Alan Glass's band. We joked about, and first album would be called "He's Here to Blow Up Your Cunt." my brother actually said his would be called Menstrual Clot.
Oh, that is.
That would be like a real porno grind.
Yeah.
Porno
Proper
grindcore.
oinky vocals.
Yeah, like that.
I
right.
love
Zombies
that,
are good. You should get Zombie to come on and just do the vocals that he does, where he makes things like puts like Nintendo Game Boy headphones in a jar as a microphone and then does like vocals like that. Like that's good. I mean, like with metal, like it just depends what month it is and what I'm really into at the time. Like I got really into just like standard cheesy heavy metal, like old heavy metal. Like, and I really like metal with like women singers at the moment, like Savage Master and like Girls' School and stuff like that. And then
I've just been listening to that first Goat Semen record just because from that first song that was also in the Barry Court video with like the big kind of orchestral intro. He's so fucking good. That album.
yeah,
is
see
amazing.
that stuff's all right, but there's only like one album at a time you can listen. There's only like one album of each band that's any good, and then those genres as well. Like I don't really like black metal that much. I'm just not bothered by it.
Is
But
that where the Funeral French? Does Funeral French that name come from? Funeral Fog Mayhem.
I think me and Alan did our little T-shirt thing and called it Funeral Fog, and then I needed an email address, and it was just funeralfrench@hotmail.com, and then it went to yahoo.com, and then it was just like, well. And the reason people even use the Funeral French thing is because Lee at Creature used it once I'd done a graphic. He just used my email address as a thing instead of just putting French did this graphic. He was like, Funeral French did it.
So is that where it came from?
I've never promoted it as like a thing. And then I was like, well, I need a website. Well, that's easier than French, isn't it? Like it's quite hard to. What are we looking up? Just French
illustration.
Art. Like it's quite hard to Google it. So
I want to talk to you about Witchcraft Skateboards.
Witchcraft Hardware. Never used the word skateboard in it.
Didn't you make boards, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't called that.
Might have seen it in a magazine.
Well,
somewhere.
the deal was originally I didn't want to make skateboards. I just wanted to make something. And
So you did truck bolts?
Yeah, I did bolts first of all. Yeah, it was
Right.
bolts, and I made some t-shirts, and then
It escalated.
yeah, and I just was like, what it actually was right at the time was it was really hard to get boards. It seems mad now. Couldn't get big boards. You couldn't get boards of an 8.5.
When did it start, Witchcraft? Mid 2000s.
2008, something like that. But
So
I
that
couldn't-
would have been prime, still 7.75, 7.8.
Yeah, it was.
8
You
inch.
couldn't really get like 8.5s, and then it was even hard to get like the anti-hero like Eagle one.
Yeah.
And then
The
I
only
was,
shaped boards then was the Zarosh Death board.
I
That's
didn't
all
want
I
to make.
remember.
I didn't want to make shaped. I just wanted to make a bigger board because I wanted a wider
just
board.
generally wider.
Yeah, like
board.
a regular shaped board that was like bigger like that. And then I was just like, and I sort of just said, I just was making like I can't get boards. Like it was really hard to get them, and it was at a time where you wouldn't really buy boards online because you didn't want to buy. You didn't know what the shape was going to be like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember just doing it, and then I spoke to Jim Theo about it. I was doing some graphics for real, and I spoke to him about it and just saying, I can't get this. He was like, well, I could just give you like the factory details and you could just speak to them and you could probably just make some. And I was like, really? And he
What
was
a
like,
lovely fella, yeah.
And he was like, yeah, of course, just make some boards. So I contacted the factory and was just like,
Are we talking BBS?
well, yeah, like Generator. When it was like you bought boards through Generator, but it was BBS, so it was like that. And I spoke to them, and they were like, "Yeah, you could do that. You could just make like however many." And I was like, "Okay, I'll just make some boards." And I was talking to Paul Parker and was like, "Would you want to do a graphic? Because there's no point in just making one graphic. I didn't want to make one graphic and put it on like 4 different sizes.
An arrangement of sizes.
Because I thought that would be harder to sell. So I'd done a graphic that was already the t-shirt graphic, and I made it into the board graphic. And I asked Paul. And I asked Sam Roberts, because Sam Roberts was making all these lino cuts at the time. And then I made those, and I hadn't really thought much further than I'm going to make these boards, and then I'll see if they sell. And then I spoke to Wes. He just started Rock Solid Distribution.
Big up Wes.
Yeah.
I love
and
Wes.
Wes was like, yeah, I'll try and sell them. And then I got them, he helped me working out getting them shipped. So we got them put on a boat, and they were sent over from the States. And then before they even arrived, Wes was like, well, I've sold like 250. I was like, well, we've only made 150. So they arrived, went straight out. So I had to order. So I was like, well, I'm not printing the same graphic again. So I just made more. We just did it again, and it just carried on like that for quite a few years of just being like, and then I would just try and make like, okay, then 8.5 wasn't big enough. So I was like, right, yeah, I want to make like an 8.75. Spoke to the factory, like, oh, we've got like one, but it's like this random shape. So he'd send me like a photo, and I'd be like, yeah, could you change this and this? Can you make like the tail a bit squarer? Can you make the wheelbase?
So they ended up actually doing your own shapes?
Oh, all my shapes, yeah, all the shapes were, most of them, anything that wasn't the 8.5 was literally, it was a shorter wheelbase version of the Anti-Hero Eagle board.
Yeah.
Was the 8.5, so I remember going from an 8-inch BAM board and then a Witchcraft 8.5, and it was...
Can't believe you'd say that.
It was nothing wrong with BAM. Like, absolutely nothing wrong with being a BAM boy. Like, if you think BAM sucks, you suck. BAM's the best. Anyway, I went from that to an 8.5 Witchcraft, and the graphic was green, and it had a soldier on the bottom, and he was dead. And I got 149s and black.
But it was
dark
but at that
style
point
wheels.
as well, I think like, yeah, and I think with Witchcraft it was good. No one was really making Mosher graphics apart from Creature.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make what Creature did. I wanted to ask other people, and there were a lot of people that I liked their artwork, and I thought, well, if I can sell it, I know what I could work out the profit of what each board would make, and I could afford to, and I was like upfront with people. I was like, this is how much profit I'll make, like 100 or 200 of these boards. I can give you like this much per board, and if I make more of them, I'll give you more money. And if you do it and we can make a t-shirt graphic, I'll give you more money because we can do a t-shirt graphic. And I'll tell you, I was upfront with like, this is what it cost me to make, this is what my profit will be, and this is what I can afford to pay you. And then like Paul Parker did one in every single run of boards that I did.
Yeah.
And his took so long. Like they're all paintings, like actual like proper hand.
Oh, so he painted that.
Yeah, that's a
graphics.
proper painting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all like crazy paintings. It took him like weeks and weeks to do.
I fucking love that board. I learned pole jams on that board. That's why I.
But so, and then at the time it was quite good because, like you say, it was hard to get bigger boards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because I had them, the price point was probably a little bit under what an American board was. You could, like, Wes could sell them onto shops. People liked it. The graphics.
How much were they? Like 45
Yeah,
quid?
45, 50 quid.
I remember that, yeah.
At one point, we were more expensive, and I was a bit like, well, I'm going to make it more expensive because I've got to pay the people to do the artwork.
Also, at that point, because we probably shouldn't go into it in too much detail, but like
No, go on.
the wider boards now coming in from that factory,
Yeah.
they're more expensive if you go over 8.5. So were they
But
putting
at
on-
the time, yeah,
different
at
then.
the time it did, because I made, like, when we started making, when me and Alex Irving would do it, because Alex Irving came into it with me, when we were making boards that were like 9 inches, we made like a weird shaped 10-inch board.
With the goat head on it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it was
I never got that board.
you get this many boards out of a sheet of wood.
Yeah.
So the minute you get less boards, the boards go up. So the
Yeah.
way you do that was you just like, well, I'm going to make a limited run of those, and hopefully we'll sell more of the other ones to cover the cost of these.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at one point, it was really hard for me to sell the smaller boards that apparently was the most popular size for everyone else.
Yeah,
But
because it was
8.5
changing, wasn't it?
8.5, 8.75, 8.6, like that, like 8.8, all of that. We just sold so many of them when everyone else was like, well, people would be like, you speak to shops and be like, well, it's really hard to sell because you can only really sell 8.1. You'd be like, well, no, we try it. And then at one point I knew that the only company that made a 9-inch board was the Stu Graham 9-inch board, and and no one was selling them. And Habgood was like, "Would you make a 9-inch regular shape board?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's make a 9-inch regular shape board." And then when I spoke to the factory, they were like, "How would you want to do it?" And I was like, "Okay." So I spoke to Joe, and Joe was like, "Well, let's make the wheelbase a little bit longer and just scale everything up exactly the same." So we just did it, and it worked, and it was great. And then like the next one round, I think we were like, "Can we make the wheelbase a little bit shorter and make the nose and tail a little bit longer?" I think we did it like that way. But
I've really, really liked Witchcraft, like especially when you did the goat head on the t-shirt on the back print with the small front print Witchcraft. It was sick.
we sold a lot of those shirts. Yeah,
Yeah, it was amazing.
yeah, it was fun to do for a while, but I didn't. It got to a point where it was either do Witchcraft or be an artist, and I didn't. And the problem was as well, I found with having a skateboard company, it was really eating into me actually getting to go skateboarding.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. And I was like, what is the point in doing this if I don't get to go skateboarding? And I was like, and this is a headache. And then with Brexit and everything else, all the money problems, I was just like, the economy, like all these things, I was like, this is pointless. I can't make a lot of money out of making these boards. It's doing really well. It would do better to just cut it. And in the end, me and Alex talked about it. Alex wanted to go and do something else. Like Alex was like, he had a family, and I was just like, look, I would rather just concentrate on making art and going skateboarding. I don't really want to do this. The team part of it was really fun because you get to skate with your mates. But then the problem is if I'm having to work while they go on a skate trip so that we can pay for the trip, even though there was no real budget to do the trips. Yeah, and like people like Rick Fields and Arbell and like Joxer. Like,
where is Arbell?
Wales.
Is he's not skating?
I haven't heard from Arbell in years.
Man, I remember.
It was amazing.
I think it was like Mini Ramp Champs 2013 or maybe 2014. He's there, Witchcraft board, and he's doing like, he used to do the back 50s and smack them to lip.
Like hang up.
Oh man, yeah, he was really
He did that on the extension on the vert ramp at the skate hall in Berlin.
Oh man,
and he didn't skate all day, and he dropped in, and the only two tricks he did was he did up onto the pool coping bit, axle stall to hang up, and then front side tail block back in, and then that was the all skating he did. And I was like, okay. But Arbell was great. We take him on trips, and he was really stoked. And like,
I think he's a doctor or something. I got told, or
I have no idea. I really don't know. But yeah, like
solid team as well. It was a solid team.
Yeah, it was fun, and everyone kind of got that it was like a laugh. It wasn't like this serious thing, and no one was going to get. And it was always no one's getting a pro board. There will not be pro boards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing that. I'm not going to single someone out and be like, you're better than everyone else. You're worth more money. And also, I was like, if we do that, we won't have enough money to do trips because we'll have to be paying one person, which is pointless.
Money,
because what am I going to do? Give you £1 a board? So what? Every 3 months you can have £100.
Yeah.
Like
and that £100 actually really does take out of making those boards.
And then also because I was selling it in so many other countries, I was just like, this will be a real hard sell to be like this. And I was like, it would do better to pay artists to make better graphics, and the graphics sell more, and then I can still give people free boards.
Where was it big in other countries? Like Germany? Was it big in
Germany, Australia, Japan, Portugal, Italy.
Fucking hell, Japan.
Canada.
Japan comes up, like I said, you've made it if you like do good in Japan as well.
It sold quite well in Canada as well for a bit. Yeah.
Was Wes taking care of Europe for you, or you?
No, I just did it myself.
But
it was
shit. A lot of work.
But because
you had enough of it.
But when we were in the EU, it would ship to Wes, and then we would ship it from Wes back out.
Different.
Or if there were big enough orders, by the end there were big enough orders that we could ship directly from the factory to those. Like Japan, it just got split at the factory because they were buying boards that were being made there as well.
Yeah.
So the guys that were buying Witchcraft were buying, I can't remember what the other brands were. Were they buying Witchens? I can't remember. It was like other brands that were being made there. So they would go on their pallets and then get shipped. So that would work out okay. And the same with Australia, because Trent that does Passport was distributing Witchcraft in Australia. So it would just go on top of their Passport orders, and then they would go to the same factories to the same distributor and shipping and everything else. So it would go to Australia, so they would get it. So
I can imagine right now with how things are, it'd be a fucking nightmare trying to.
It was also just like
so time consuming, so much.
It just wasn't. It wasn't what I wanted to do. Like with doing Dungeon again now, like doing my own thing with that is just more fun because it's like whatever I want. I'm not tied down to making boards because I don't make boards. I just make merchandise with my artwork on, and it's got a name. So I'm like, that's easier to do it. And then if I'm like, I want to make like the things that you stick in Crocs, I can make those. If I want to make patches, I can make those.
What are they called, those things? The
Gibbets.
Gibbets.
But if I want to make those, if I want to make keyrings, if I want to make a mudguard for a bike or a cycling hat,
just do whatever you want.
And it is just that you can do what you want. But when you've got a skateboard company, you're kind of tied into it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you get stuck. It's like anything that you create an image with. Witchcraft was so stuck in this image that had to be a certain way. It's like the same way of like, I feel sorry for people who put themselves in an image where they're like, I have to wear like these clothes and this so that people know who I am. Because if you can't just like decide to cut all your hair off and wear different clothes and do whatever you want, you're stuck. Like with a skateboard company, if your image, like I did with Witchcraft, we were so stuck in a way, I couldn't just suddenly do like a board with flowers on it or something else. And the image was like then, and it was great for that time, and it was so of its time that I was like, this would be nice to just cut it and be done. See, that was what was nice. It was like I saw like Henry's work and was like, that would be great. And
Swampy was sick.
and just got Joxer to ask him if he could give me his number, and they're getting him to do a graphic. Yeah, and there were just people that I'd be like, I really like what they do. I really respect it. It would be cool. And quite often as well, I would be like, because I'd been on that receiving end of people commissioning you to do graphics.
Yeah, reaching out to you.
I would always be like, it was more of a conversation than me being like, I want this. I would just be like, have you got an idea that you think fits with Witchcraft? And then people would be listening. I'd be like, that's cool. Do you think we can make it more like this, or we do it like this? And then quite often I'd be like, don't worry about a logo. I'll just make the logo fit on it afterwards. We'll just do it afterwards. So it is like a piece of art, and then we'll put the logo on afterwards. It was great to do that. That was what was cool. And it was nice to have Witchcraft as a thing where I was like, I did that, but then I realised afterwards how much more I enjoy. Like, I really enjoy making graphics for Heroin Skateboards. Like, that's really fun because there isn't like anything serious with it, and it isn't like, that's what's quite great with Foz, is that he's made this thing that the whole thing can be anything you want it to be. Yeah. So he's not stuck in a box. I mean, he can just sort of do whatever he wants. So whenever he's like, Foz doesn't ask me anymore what he wants. We just have things. He's like, I've got 5 pros, 6 pros. Can you do that? I'm like, yeah. So I'll just be like, I've got these ideas, and I'll just write down what I think they are. And he'd be like, yeah, sounds good. And then I'll sketch it out, and then he'd be like, yeah, sounds great, just do it. And it isn't like a thing where I get told what to do. And it is like, it's more where it's like, Fozzie's like, sick, I saw those graphics. These would be great if we put them on like a holographic background. Or yeah, I like those colours, but can we switch them out for these colours? And I think that's really cool, like doing that.
Yeah. Going back to that Swampy graphic, how did he email it to you? Because he was very pen on paper kind of guy.
No, I think he actually sent it to me.
Sent you the artwork?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think he sent it to me and I sent it back.
Did you ever meet Swampy?
Yeah, a couple of times. I think either that or he gave it to Joxer, and Joxer brought it around and we scanned it.
Big up Joxer.
Yeah.
Big up Joxer. My feet are like ice blocks. Can we get a heater under here?
Yeah.
I can't feel my toes.
But yeah, I thought
I can't feel your toes either, so don't worry about it. When I did those Black Label graphics, Lucero sent me like a Jason Adams painting that was signed from Jason Adams to me.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I was like, that's really cool. Because when I did those graphics for Lucero, the best thing was actually just talking to Lucero on the phone, because he was like, can I just call you? I was like, yeah. And like totally like, and it's funny, isn't it? Because
it's like little childhood dreams.
But
isn't
it is like, and I don't really get that starstruck with people. Like, it's never really been one of those things. I tend to think about it afterwards, but at the time I was like, when I was talking to Lucero, I was just like, oh wait, that's John Lucero. Like I was like, that's pretty mad. And it was more because of skating car parks and things, and also because there were only, I guess when I was growing up, there were only certain brands that I really liked. I only liked SMA to start with, and then it was like
Tim Jackson on SMA.
Well, this was the first video I ever saw was SMA Debunker.
Yeah.
Fucking good video.
Yeah, and it was Corey Christ and Nick Foster, that section. And it was everything I thought skateboarding should be. I was like, and I didn't really understand anything else. And after that, all videos seemed a bit mellow. I was like, and
it was pretty intensive debunker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot going on there.
It was a good 20-minute video. Yeah, and then it was like Black Label and things like that. It was all those sort of brands. I was just like, and because Black Label, even then, it seemed really hard to get because you had to go all the way to Harrow to the shop that was there if you wanted a Black Label board. So I had like one Skip Pro nearboard. I remember that. I was like, I've learnt nose grabs. I mean, I could do it on Holly and touch the nose. I was like, yeah, because what Skip Pro had a secret, isn't he? Like in an advert, it was a wally out of a tree and then nose grab. Like, do people do nose grabs anymore? Is that a thing? Do you think?
What now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like on a like I usually if I do backside airs, I grab the nose.
Yeah.
I was quite starstruck in a little way, like when we did the collab T-shirt for the video, because I always wanted like a Witchcraft baghead tee.
I thought because you were like, it's almost like doing a T-shirt with Foz.
No, I just remember when I think, mate, I definitely approached you for that. Like, could you design a tee? And then it was just around the time the vid were coming out, so to do that long sleeve meant a lot. I was really stoked.
No, it was rad. It was really rad. Now, if I do work for a brand and they're like, "Oh, we'll send you some stuff," I always ask for everything in small because then my wife will wear it because she and quite often she really likes some of the stuff, especially if it's like, because a lot of skate companies, even when they try and make stuff for women, it doesn't really work. Like my wife was like, just make it smaller and then I can wear it. And it's like the stuff they do for women is like some weird T-shirt that she's like, this shape's weird.
Crop tops or in too much at the
waist, like and always it's like some other weird thing that's just like just make it unisex. But yeah, like with T-shirts, I always quite like it if people send me stuff. If I know someone that would be really into it, I'll get it and then be like, I got sent this, it's for you. Especially guys that like older guys that I grew up skating with that gave me so much stuff because for so long I rode secondhand boards and like even secondhand skate shoes. Just be like, I've got you this. Like this is rad. Like my friend Bert at the moment, like. He rides the most fucked up boards. And even my boards when they're dead, I'm like, well, I know he's going to really appreciate this. Like always give him my old boards. And when I just went to LA, Foz made me a bunch of boards with different graphics on, just the mid-mutant shape. Yeah. And just put random graphics on them because he knows I don't really want to ride my own graphic. Or he's just, I'll just make you random ones on that shape. And because I had like 4 boards, I gave one to Bert and he like really appreciated it because Foz put one of my graphics on it. So I was like, Bert will be into this. Like, this would be sick. Like, I'll just give him that.
Has he skated it or is he keeping it?
He's going to skate it.
Yeah, that's my most favourite T-shirt that I've ever done. That long sleeve, proper fucking sick. I was stoked on that. And then they did well at the Prem as well. So I was like, oh, people are in.
You wouldn't have any left, did we, after the premiere? Like, they all went.
Did you do a second run of those?
A T-shirt. You did a T-shirt.
No, we did another run for you. Because I said,
I bought a second run and sold them separately.
Yeah, and then I know we did it as a straight dungeon T-shirt here with no sleeve print.
Yeah, fucking sick. So yeah, I'm still very thankful about
that graphic worked out really well.
I think the original idea was almost to do something similar to like the Salem's Lot cover, you know, something peering over like a castle. And I think you were like, what if I just do like a big Satan goat? And I was just like, there's all my catchphrases, like Satan, goat.
A big Satan.
But how good were like talking of Salem's Lot? How good were old book covers like that? Like that you don't really get book covers like that anymore. Like,
that's what I like. Those. I
still do it now. Like whenever I go into charity shops, I'm always looking for old like horror books and books that have like cool covers. Yeah. And I'm not even like books. I'm like bet the story's crap, but you like that's sick. Like all the old Stephen King books and like
the
James Herbert and stuff like that. Yeah. Like there's that era of like 70s like book covers that were just sick.
Maybe we should do French brain drain next run of clothing.
That'd be good.
Get the logo and do that on tees and some
like
different stuff.
We could do with like a new,
because we need a little bit of
new logo.
The merch.
Oh, that'd be good then. You'd be down for that.
Jason Adams is coming over for the Volcom this year.
Oh, sick!
I've been speaking to him a bit, and it's
not
been booked yet, but it's happening. But yeah, he's coming over in July.
That'd be rad.
Hopefully,
you should try and come.
Could you get Lucero to come as well?
We've only got budget to bring 2 over.
It's like him and Belgium Gary, isn't it?
I had a conversation. So when I did those,
I mean, he's more than welcome to come.
When I spoke to him, I was like, because he was asking me where I was from when I spoke to Lucero, and I was like, oh, I'm from Aldershot, but it's near Farnborough, and there was the vert ramp in the 80s, and I know you skated it. And he was like, oh yeah, and he was like, oh, so did you skate the vert ramp? I was like, no, it was gone by the time I skated, but I was like, we used to skate this car park in the middle of the roundabout there. And we at the time when I spoke to him, I was like, we still skate it now. And he was like, oh, the one with the yellow walls. I was like, yeah. And he went, yeah. When it rained, we used to go and skate the curbs in there.
Sick.
And straight away, I just thinking, I should put a blue plaque in that car park.
Yeah,
it's like
Zero
skating. But then he was like, yeah. There was like me, and he started listing other people that he was with, and I was like, well, I can't put all of these pros. Like he was like Lance Mountain came and skated. I was just like, so Lance Mountain skated that car park.
That's mad, isn't it?
I was like, that's weird, isn't it? Where you're just like this, such a small world. You're like, but I suppose at the time in the 80s, like ramps. Like that was what was really cool about that rad book was all of the things, but there were like so many photos where even though I didn't skate the vert ramp, you could see the photo and it's not of the ramp, but you could see the brick wall behind it. And you know it's Farnborough. And you're like, that's like such a home of skateboarding there. Where you're like, right, okay,
yeah.
I still couldn't skate vert. I can't skate vert now.
No, it's
No.
a scary one.
No.
Always wish I did,
Oh,
but I never did.
Did we just kind of finish on witchcraft, like with it being kind of expensive and taken away from? Because then 1939.
Yes, it was me and my friend Dave Sweetapple.
Sorry, Dave Sweetapple.
Yeah,
That's such a good
Sick name.
he ran TP Records, and he was like, and he's really good friends with like Jay Maskis from Dinosaur Jr. and he did like tour management and he had all these other record labels. He used to have a record store in Boston.
I say there's a record shop in Sheffield that's got the 1939, the Sleep one, the Sleep Witch Graveyard ones on the wall. I'm like, I just never got them for some reason. I could never find them and get them.
Yeah, well, it was just like we made like a really small number of them, and the deal was like me and Dave just talked about it, and we were both like, oh, because I was making boards and I could make all the shapes and everything else. And I was like, there's other people making boards for bands, but they just make it so it's just a board with a graphic on. And we were like, hey, it would be cool. And Dave was like, yeah, there's like this band want to do it and this band, and he was in Witch as well.
So another fucking great band.
Yeah, and then he was just like, well, we could do a Witch one, and I was like, okay. And he was like, oh, but there's this board, and he was like, show me the shape, and I was like, we can get that made. So we made the board. And he's like, oh, we should do it as like a company that make boards as merch. So I was like, okay. So we just started making stuff like that. And that was sort of the same as Witchcraft. We would just make like 100, 200. And then some of them we remake them. Like we did that one in like an Earthless one. And like most of the bands had something to do with like skateboarding anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like, so we just did a bunch of stuff, and it was really just fun. And then same sort of time, we sort of, I think Dave just got too busy and we sort of went in between like doing stuff and it just never really sort of happened again. It just didn't really carry on. Like we had other bands that we were doing and then Dave was like, well, we should do this with TP. And it was the problem with that was that you never realised like the record labels would get involved. So.
Yeah.
It was fun when you just see like, I remember he just sent me one, she was like, check this out. And just sent me a picture of like Riley Hawk doing like a huge front ollie in a bulb on the Witch board.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did a Dinosaur Junior one. Who else did we do?
Graveyard Sleep, Dinosaur
High on Fire.
Junior. I just remember like seeing them, but I couldn't.
The High on Fire one was good. Tim
find
Lehigh
them.
did the graphic for the High on Fire one. Yeah, like Eric Roper did stuff. It was all like really cool. Like people had done like artwork for album covers. Yeah, like we got some really cool artists to do stuff.
Yeah.
That was what was really nice as well, was to be like that and then go to the factory. And then the guy, Justin at the factory was just like, I like that band. So then you'd be like, can we make it in like more of a wacky colour? Can you do this? Can we make it dipped? And he'd just be like, yeah. And then he would come back with ideas as well. So that was kind of cool, like to do that.
Like I said, I remember seeing it, but I didn't know where sold it. And to be honest, it was only until like
Keen
maybe
distributed
last
it for a
year
bit.
that I knew that it was to do with you. And like, I always wondered like what it was because I just remember the logo was really good. The 19.
It was like a patch. Yeah, we made a patch and then scanned it back in. Yeah, Keen Distribution sold it for us.
Yeah.
And in the States, Dave sold it. We sold it to a bunch
I
of
just
places.
heavily missed out on that. Because I think every band for a board that you did is someone that I've listened to.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck. Especially the Sleep one. They're like the grail for me.
Yeah, I think we did 2 sleep ones. I can't remember. That's what's quite nice about now as well when I do boards for people, because I guess I'm in more of a position where people like I guess they're like, well, you've got experience, so what would you prefer to? And I'm like, could we make a wood stain like this? Like I just did a graphic for Pearl Jam. They make boards for their tours in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done one for like this year, and I looked through what they'd already got, what I could find, and nothing had like a wood stain. So then I went back to the guys that are making it. It was like, it would be really cool if we could just ask the factory what wood stains they've got. So they sent me a photo, and they're like, which one do you want? And I was like, no, it would be cooler if we're doing it to just be like, here's the graphic, so it's cut out, so it's all going to go with a wood stain behind it, and just be like, just give us like 10 blue, 10 pink, 50 of it. I was like, it'll be cool. I was like, and I was also like, you know that people at the shows are going to be like, fuck, there's only like 5 of the blue one. Like, I want the blue one, and then that's going to be like a real thing.
Yeah, it makes it more specialist kind.
Yeah, because I like it as well. Like, I don't know if you're the same, but you know when you get a new board, I get really bummed if when you scratch the graphic, it's just regular boring veneer underneath.
Yeah.
I want it to be a colour.
Yeah.
Like I always really like it to have a colour in the middle, colour on the top, and a colour on the bottom. Yeah. So when it scratches through, and I always like yellow on the top, yellow or like blue on the top.
Yeah.
It's got to be a stronger colour.
It seems like a lot of boards recently, especially last year, they were all just colourless. like the wood stains.
Well, it costs
and
more money,
colours,
doesn't it?
it's just-
Put-
Yeah.
put the
they just
stains
look
in,
so
but
shit when they're just.
Think how
that-
much longer it must take to do it and stain all the wood.
There was
Yeah.
for a time, not that I'm a fan of Plan B, but when they were, I think it's when they first started with HLC, they would do multiple black plies together within the board, which looked really good. When we
Do you not find though, you know, when you get lots of black plies, in my head it makes it look heavy, like dipped boards, and it's not a real thing. In my head, I'm like, oh, that board's gonna be really heavy
with dips, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? What did they call it? Consolidated did a run of dip boards, but they had that weird concave on them that was kind of like. It was almost like a concave lengthways, but widthways as well to a certain extent.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
I can't remember what they called it. They had a special name for it, but they were always dipped and they always looked heavy, but they weren't. With the heathen plies, we do black, white, black, white, black
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that because I just think it looks better, doesn't it?
Because I
like
remember, you
having-
know, when I went to Shannon, when Creature restarted, like when they were just first bringing back out, and they did those green dipped boards with the
Yeah.
black logo on the bottom. I had loads of those, and in my head, the thing was, I always thought that they delammed quicker, but now I know that it wasn't. It was when Stockwell was really fucked, and my board would always
Yeah.
just shoot out and
Yeah,
hit the
yeah.
wall. But I just always thought, like, oh no, dipped boards they delam like quicker, but it's not that at all.
No, I don't think there's
They
that.
do look fucking stinking though, don't they? Like the first day you get a dip board, you're like rad. And then
No,
by the end of it,
I
it's
like
Some
it.
of
I
them
think
are
it
good.
depends what colour the dip is.
If
I
it's
remember
all black, I'm into all black.
I had a heron board that was all dipped. It was one of those Life for Antarctica ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to PlayStation when they first built the little bowl at the top. And when I went to roll in, you could see on the back of my foot as I rolled in, you could see the white bit that stuck out from under the ground. And it kept really putting me off that I could see the white bit out the corner of my eye. So I just had to go and get on the tarmac and scratch it all off on the tail because I was
Yeah.
like, it's really putting me off when I'm skating that I could see the white bit.
I had a yellow dipped anti-hero board last year. That was quite nice. That's the first dip board I've had in a long time. Like people just didn't really do it.
Yeah, because Anti-Hero did it like late 90s, didn't they? They did a
Yeah.
whole load of dipped boards because that was the first time I'd ever seen it. There was like a bright orange.
Mm-hmm.
Like one, it was when there was those Night of the Living Dead things at Liverpool.
Yeah.
Oh, the big
Yeah.
bowl jams.
And I remember someone having like I think the Anti-Hero team came or like there were people like Americans were
I
there.
think TNT was there.
Yeah.
One of them.
And I was like, what is that board that's got paint
Max
all
Shaft
over it?
TNT.
Don't know, maybe on one of them. I just remember seeing footage of Stu Graham on one of them, and he's grinding around the bowl and he's falling out and just swinging into like the people that are sat there.
Yeah.
Imagine an event
What, like
that
don't
now.
sit down.
I know
Extreme
we've like
match
spoke
event.
about it, but like just an event like that now would be insane.
Let's talk about this one first, then we'll go back to that. Yeah?
Well, just briefly, what was Car13? So I remember Car13, white
It was
T-shirt.
Alex Irvin's wheel company.
Okay. Did you have anything to do with that? Was it?
Yeah, I did all the graphic. Yeah, I did all the artwork. We were gonna make wheels, or we made wheels. It was when we were doing Witchcraft, and me and Alex were doing it, and Alex wanted to make wheels. I think it was Alex or someone who made wheels, and like Sam Beckett was gonna do it with us. Sam helped me. I went to the factory in the States with Sam, and Sam worked out the formula and everything else, so we got wheels made. And I was sort of just doing the graphics and then sorting out. We were selling it through Rock Solid,
Mhm.
and then it just. I think it was more that like Alex didn't really have time to do it. I didn't want something else on top of Witchcraft
Yeah.
and my other stuff. And the wheels were really good. The quality was great, and the team was really fun.
Mhm.
But it was really just like, and also selling wheels is hard, isn't it? Like,
It's one of those like with trucks. Like once you've got your wheel in your truck, why change
well,
it?
I think like now it's just really hard, and also it's like it's amazing like what Rob does with Sabbath. Like I think that's the first time in years that someone's managed to make a wheel company in the UK, and it's just gone out and it's actually you see it. Because quite often it would be like, it was more like before, wasn't it? You'd be like, there's Spitfire and Bones, and then there's other wheels that are cheap. And then that was like it, was it, for a long time? I mean, like
Yeah.
Foz is doing really well with Snot as well,
Yeah,
isn't
Snot's
it? So,
a good one, but Octagon back in the day, there was that one. Blueprint, that was fucking terrible. Those wheels were so bad.
Slime balls, though.
I do like.
yeah,
a good
OJ.
slime-
So you got OJ as well. So it's like those three, and it's outside of the three, and then but Snot as well has its own place in the market because it's like crazy colours, crazy shapes. I think that's it, isn't it? If you've got to pick a point with wheels, and we just didn't really have it other than they were good wheels, and we sort of just had a bunch of mates. And I think I was sort of leaving it to Alex. Alex was sort of leaving it to me. We were sort of both leaving it to
It
Wes.
just kind of sat in the.
Yeah, and it was
Ether.
like none of us got time to do another company,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to make like Witchcraft Wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Wheels are hard, aren't they? Like the minute you make a bad run of wheels, everyone knows
You're
that those
fucked.
wheels are bad,
Yeah.
and that's it. Like you say, like there was so many. Octagon was bad. Like I just remember it being bad.
What
They
what
just-
made them bad? Was it just the urethane?
They were
like-
actually octagon shaped, I think.
But you,
So you put
you
them on, you're
ride
like-
them for 5 minutes and they'd be octagon shaped.
Yeah.
They were like, it's when wheels were dead thin. You know, like when you see cheap completes now,
Hmm.
that wheel profile, it's like an early 90s
Yeah.
profile.
The
They
skinny
were like
one.
that. And there was no durability whatsoever in
No.
them. They just exploded, fell apart. But everyone was behind it because it was blueprint.
Potato,
It's British.
potato wheels was good.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Big up Potato Wheels.
Yeah, potato wheels was sick. I had some potato wheels. They were probably actually the wheels I had the longest in my life. I think I had them
They're
for
actually
like
good
3
wheels.
years.
They came in that off yellow kind of
Yeah.
potato colour.
Who
what
was
other
who was that by? Was that by Horse?
That was
Horsley?
Powley.
Powley
Powley.
and Wingy. And
It was good. I like potato wheels. They came in a little brown bag.
In a little Hessian sack.
Yeah. in a
There's
little
that
potato sack.
amazing clip of Powley just handing out potatoes to kids at a skate park. They were getting hyped like they were getting something, but it's like, you just getting potatoes. So good. Big up Powley.
Do you want to take it to that one?
So one of the questions, who did you get this one off? Was that off Zombie?
That would have been off Zombie Stew, that one.
Yeah. You were the driver for a Thrasher UK tour.
Yeah.
Who was on it and how was it?
I was told that you got fed up with that alpha American macho bullshit.
It wasn't great. Well, actually, no. I wouldn't say it wasn't. It wasn't like it wasn't great.
Stu said it was the only time he's actually seen you fully bummed out.
I think it was more me and Alan Glass were driving the two vans. Well, originally it was me and Pig Dog were doing it, and then Alan drove the other van.
When was it and what year was it?
2014, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I was back here waiting for my visa to go back to Australia, so
Yeah.
I was back for like 2 or 3 months. And Alan was like, "Would you drive the van?" I was like, "Yeah, it sounds like it'd be really fun." Because all the other tours that I'd driven the van on had actually been really fun. And it was like, oh yeah, like there was like, well, Sam Beckett, Ramers, Lintel, Jack Curtin was on it, Ronnie Sandoval, Ronnie Sandoval. I'm trying to think who else was on it. Phelps, P-Stone, like Raven Tertier, Grant Taylor. Yeah, they were like all on it. Like they were all there. There was more than that as well. There was also people that came for a while and then had to leave, and then
Yeah.
came back. And then there was like a miscommunication as well between like, I think between like Thrasher and Shiner and who was running what, and there were like different things about who was booked what, and there was like someone else meant to book this. So that became, which to be fair, because I wasn't, it was nice because I wasn't tour manager. I didn't have to deal with it, so I
Yeah.
could just walk away and be like, I'm not going to have to deal with that. Like Alan would have to deal with it, and it seemed quite stressful with him. And like Kev Parrott was filming as well, so it was like a good crew essentially. But like on the first day, like I'd met Phelps before. Like I was like, yeah, he just likes to push people with buttons. And we got in the van, and we went to leave, and he was like, what did he fucking do? He was punching he was sitting. So it was me and Peace. I was driving, and Peace was in the front, and we were having like a normal chat. So I'd never met him before. Peace was really nice, and we were just having like a chat before we got in the van. And we went to set off.
Phelps is like, let's go,
He was
fucker.
just doing. I can't what the fuck he was giving me shit, and he was punching the roof of the van and all this other stuff. And we literally got to the first traffic lights, and I just turned the engine off, and I turned the engine off, put the handbrake on, and just turned and went, "Listen, if you're gonna carry on, you can get the fuck out of my van." I was like, "I'm not doing this." I was
Good
like,
on
"I'm
you.
not." I was like, "I don't care." I was like, "I'm not gonna spend the next 5 days with you doing this." And he went, and he I can't what he said. He said like, he really looked at me like, what is this guy going to do? And I really was like, and the car behind us was beeping because we were at the lights, and I was just like, so are you just going to sit down and chill out? And I could see P-Stone was like really starting to laugh, and I was just like, and he went, yeah, and just sat back. And then we just left, and he carried on. And he was fine, and we were having a chat with P-Stone, and then I said to P-Stone, I had an old iPod that was plugged into the stereo. And I was like, oh, you choose music. And he put Motorhead on. And then Phelps like leapt forward and just started talking. And we just started talking about Motorhead. And we spoke all the way to the first Motor Services. And then he bought me a coffee and apologised.
Oh.
But it was...
And then Joxer came out of nowhere and hit him again.
But the thing was, on that trip, I saw him push so many people's buttons. And I think the problem was that people would let him, and I was
Yeah,
like,
you gotta.
but I was also like, I'm not going to be treated like this. It's not.
I've said it before, but he seemed like such a cunt, didn't he?
He was hard. I mean, he was
like-
hard work. So like on the day we were in Bristol, one of the weird booking things was that anyone that worked to do with the tour that wasn't the skaters, we were all in a different hotel, which is actually funny because we were way nicer hotels.
Yeah.
So they were all in like Travelodge, and we were in like nice ones that Shiner paid for. And like, so we turned up one morning. It was really sunny, and I remember I'd cleaned out the van because there's all that shit in it, so I just thrown the rubbish out. And the door was like the side door was open. Heard this glass shatter. Someone shouted something. Phelps comes running out of this hotel, jumps in the van. He's like, drive, and I went, nah. And then like, this woman just comes out of the hotel, and she was just like, you have to pay for that. You have to pay for, and like makes him come back in. And he just like stolen a beer out of the fridge in the front of the thing, and then like thrown another one on the floor and run out like it was. But it was the hotel he was staying in. I was
What
like,
prat, like
but I just thought it was really funny because I think he thought I was going, oh yeah, quick, let's drive. I was like,
no.
no, just pay for it. But yeah, I just found like maybe they're better now because they're older. But Raven Tertian and Grant Taylor were just fucking hard work. They didn't want to talk to anyone else. They just were doing stupid shit like setting fire stuff in the vans, and I was just like, yeah, I get it. It's
Had
funny.
you hired this van?
I didn't shine a paid for, but they all ended up in Alan's van because I think they knew that I wasn't into it. So like P Stone stayed in my van, and it was in the end it was like a really mellow van. So it was like Jack Curtin, Lintel, like Raymers, like Ben. I think we had Kev Parrott was in mine. Because P Stone was always got the front seats. He had all of his stuff in the front. He like made himself like real comfortable in the front, and it was like really good because he'd always have like snacks as well. So that was always really nice. But yeah, so the trip was just Div went in their van in the end as well. But yeah, it was just a bit like zero respect for what anyone else was doing. And I was just a bit like, I don't mind if you want to fuck about, smash things up, whatever, like in the street, but also these people are paid for stuff. But you don't respect me either. You treat me like, hey, driver guy. I was just like, you know what my name is. Don't talk to me like that. That's weird.
Yeah.
I was like, it's weird because I don't just call you hey skateboarder guy. And it was.
Did you say that to him?
We didn't get any eye contact. It was like, you know, when you've got a dog that's really stupid, but he just barks, like Alex Irvin's dog. A lot of it, the conversations were like, was a lot like, hey, come on, don't do that. And it would just be a bit like no eye contact. Like, and you're just like, well, just don't. Like, I know you're obviously not stupid. And so many other people tell you that these guys are really nice.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not getting that.
Yeah.
So they might be. Like, they might like... It was like some other thing recently. Someone was like, yeah, Grant Taylor's great. And I was like, not my experience. But maybe he is. Maybe he was really young. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it's over 10 years ago.
But even Phelps doing it, like, you know, that's his, like, you know, when you see his persona in videos and, like, the amount of times he's at Skater of the Year and he's being punched by someone.
Yeah, I
because
couldn't
he's
think
like,
of...
"Get
Well,
it,
Phelps
fucker."
definitely was like, he was mellow and stuff. And we got to Bristol, they had like Dina Day, and you saw it when he went from the van to that. It was like a definite persona that he put on to be like that. And then he was, but it was like, I got the other persona of it because he would talk to me normally.
Yeah.
But I think because it may have been that he sort of got that, like, oh, if I've got to deal with him, I've got to just talk to him normally or else I'm not going to get anything out of this.
I mean, yeah, Phelps just seemed like the worst person to have in the van from what I saw of him.
I could imagine when you look at those, like, King of the Roads and stuff, and you got, like, those young, hungry skaters, and Phelps is like, get it, and he's going nuts. That at that moment in time, it's fine. But then, yeah, if you're driving them around or you're in a hotel with them and they're like that all the time, you're just like, shut up.
I think you'd
like,
have
go
be
to sleep.
I think
the
it's
most
just sort of because
patient person.
I think it's just hard when you meet someone, you don't really know them, you don't know what their personality's like, and like I think what I find hard is when people aren't consistent. Like if someone's consistently a fucking idiot, you're like, I get it, this guy's always an idiot.
Yeah.
That's just their personality. And sometimes you could just drown it out or you just get used to it, and you're like, that's just the way they are. They're obviously really socially hazardous. Like that'll be how it works. But when someone's like up and down, you're like, I don't know. It is like,
It's hard to gauge it.
well, it's like when someone goes, you go, does your dog bite? And they go, oh, well, I wouldn't touch him. It's a bit like that where you're like, I'm not sure what I'm getting, so I'm just going to avoid it.
Socially hazardous is such a good description. I'm going to use that. So
That's
much
like
from
a
now.
good punk band name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social Hazard. Maybe that'd be my band name. Social Hazard.
Phelps
Yeah.
just always came across as just a massive fucking prat.
I mean, I got a lot of respect for what he did for skateboarding.
Oh, yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
also like, you have to also realise that just because it's a bit like when someone's like, that guy's great, you're like, just because they're good at something doesn't make them a great person.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
there's a lot of people that have done really great things who are actually terrible arseholes.
Yeah. Talk to us about frontside grinds. Who's got the best one?
Richie Gilligan.
That was another question from Jock.
Richie Gilligan.
Why?
Who's got the best frontside grind?
Rich Gilligan. The first time I ever met Rich Gilligan, we went to PlayStation and skated the little mini ramp.
Yeah.
He'd come into side that day. He just moved over from Ireland, and I was like, "This guy looks like he slept in a ditch. He's fucking brilliant." Couldn't really understand everything he said because of his accent. And we went to skate mini ramp, and he just has this like when he comes up, it's just I don't know if he got it from Bruce the Ox, but I don't know because Bruce didn't really do him like that. But it's all your weight, arms up, and it's like you can see it's like really pushed into the back truck.
Like a slash frontside grind.
It's like up and then onto it, and it's like a stand-up grind.
Right.
You know how like it was always called a stand-up, not a 5-0. It was like it's like a proper stand-up, and it's pushed and then it's back in. And the other thing Rich used to do was the frontside ollie, and then you bang it to front pivot. And the only other person I've ever seen do that was Howard Cook.
Yeah.
And I skated the mirror at Rich, and the coping was a bit wobbly on the extension, and he did it like so many times. And he'd do like the bang and hold it, and then it like fall back in. And I was just always like, that's the best one. Sam Hitz has also got a really good frontside grind.
Pete Hewitt does them like how I'm imagining.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, that's
that kind of like, you know.
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah.
I remember Swampy saying to me, he's like, if
Can you
you're
put a frontside grind of Pete Hewitt right here now?
Yeah.
Right, good.
I remember Swampy saying to me, because he had that bowl in his backyard, which was fucking hell.
Yeah.
Hell bowl. He said, when you skate something with rough concrete is when you're doing a frontside slash or frontside grind.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to swing at it like you're trying to punch.
It's when it's going to bite back.
You got to punch it.
So it
And
doesn't
you'd
bite
see
and
him
get it
like,
grinding.
you'd see him fully twist
Yeah,
his
yeah.
shoulders, and it'd almost be like he was going up straight and coming down straight. He
Yeah.
weren't traveling. He was just,
Yeah, because there's like, you know, like if you... Because I grew up skating things that didn't have any wax on them. Like you go to South Sea and stuff and skate things, you'd see old guys do it, and I was like, right, I get it. You have to really push it in. And it is that, like, when you get it and you know it's not going to stick, but it's definitely going to drag you back. Like, you've hit a current and it's going the wrong way, and you've got to really pull it forward. Like, you know you can't stand on top of it. But yeah, like, I like the look of a really good frontside grind. Mine aren't very good, but like the look of other people's like just right on top of it.
It's one of those tricks that you can kind of see if somebody's got good style or not.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's the same with frontside ollies as well on ramps. Like,
Well, it's that
certain
thing.
people make it look really
It's
good.
that thing as well where there's a real divide. You know, like when people are like, this guy's really good at skateboarding. And in my head, like actually my friend Matthias said this really right, he's German. So the German way of saying it sound because of the way it's said. So in German, you don't ride a skateboard, you drive a skateboard because you drive it. So the word for riding or anything else is always drive. So he's like, that guy can do tricks, but he can drive a skateboard because you can drive it because you know what you're doing, you're in control. And it is like when you go to Stockwell or Hackney Bumps or any of those parks that are like lumps and bumps, you can see dudes there that will go there and they've got every trick under something, they can do every lip trick you've ever seen. But when they can't like ride it, like it's actually push it and pump it and keep going, it's just so weird because you realise it's a bit like when you see interviews with Tony Hawk and he's like, yeah, we could skate vert, but the idea of skating like a pool or like a bowl that you don't know how to pump. It's that thing of actually being able to steer around it and stuff and keep going and then skate it. It's like, that's why skating random DIY stuff is so much fun, isn't it? Because you go there and any trick you make on some horrible DIY is great. Like you'll get there and you'll be like, oh, I think I could do this trick here. And then you're like, by the time you leave, you've done like one of them because there's nothing you could do because it's all tight and rough. There's a hole here. Like this bit's made out of toilet rolls. I mean, like, this is made out of an old bin with some concrete in it. Like,
again, Swampy Bowl, he had beer cans with
exactly,
concrete
that's
in
just
them.
it, right?
And he put them all along the edge of one side and fucking he skated that like no tomorrow. But,
Yeah.
But you touch it and you'd feel it just drag you and
Yeah.
spin you out. But he'd just like punch into it every corner. Fucking hell, that bowl was ridiculous.
There's this bowl. You've probably seen it. It's always been in loads of like photos and stuff when people do tours to Australia. It's just outside of Melbourne it's in this place called Corio, which is just outside of Geelong, and there's a keyhole bowl it has like a proper keyhole, like poo chute. They're like the Devil's Toilet at Southsea, and I went there. We're living there with do you know Gorm, like the filmer guy, was like Raymond's mate.
Yeah,
He lives in Melbourne now.
Yeah.
We went there, and the bottom of it was full of shopping trolleys, and it was water in it, and the top is not going to grind. Like it's just not. It just wasn't going to grind at all. And Gorm was like, "We should grind it because Munson would be like, fucking grind that you fuck. When Munson had his old teeth, you fucking grind that you stupid fucking muscles. So we got that, and that was one of those things where we were both, after we did it, we were like, there is no fucking way that we could do that again, because it was like sand, just like old dirty sand, and you grind it, and it is like that, and that's you like Swampy's thing, yeah.
Do you think Munson's changed his voice? No, he's had his teeth
Yeah, because he's
done.
got less teeth.
I'd never noticed it. He sounds the same to me, but
His voice used to be more like when Munson would like shout at you, with like the amount of times he would shout at me for being a fucking pussy, fucking hippie cunt. Look at you, get a fucking haircut. That was always get a fucking haircut. It's because he had like those extra teeth there, and it was almost just like he couldn't get the words out fast enough past all the teeth.
he's never been like that with
What do
me.
you say
He's
to me?
always been really nice.
I've got enough fucking money. Of course, I've got fucking turkey teeth now.
He's good, and he Munson.
Fucking best. He's such a nice
when he
dude.
bails and he goes, "Ah," like
Yeah, the
charging
Munson
himself
growl.
up.
Munson, like out of all the things, the tricks that you do, like the places when I've been on trips with Munson, he scared me so much into doing a trick that I never would like. He made me do a frontside grind over the death box in Algorta at the Bilbao Park, and when we got there, I was so scared to go in the deep. I was like, I can't do anything. There's nothing. I slashed it, and he was like, "Forward fucking go, you fucking hairy cunt! You'll fucking go over that fucking death box if I have to fucking throw you over it." And he was like, "We will fucking leave you in fucking Spain." But he made me do it. It was the same. He was like, we skated this video, and he was like, "You are going to fucking learn fucking trail glides." And it was just like, "Do not let go. You are going to hit the deck." And it was just like sliding and then just falling to the flat, and him just be like, "Do it again." But it works because and I was so stoked by the end of it. Like no one had ever really forced me to do something. Like, and I was so, and it was like, what's worse? The possibility that Munson might actually slap me and then leave me in Spain, or just landing the fucking trick. You might as well just land it. Like it's way easier.
He's one of those guys, isn't he? Just like he makes you want to try. Really,
Yeah.
It's just, and it's not like his foot. It's not like a pressure thing. It's just
No.
like you want to try for him. You know what I mean? Like,
But he has that good motivational. Like I watched his brain drain, and I was like, oh, so because
It's one of my favourite ones.
he does have that motivational thing where he was like, just do it, you'll be so happy. And it is like him and Bruce the Ox had the same thing. Like Bruce would do it in a different way. That Bruce would just be like, you'll be so stoked when you do this. Like I remember we did this big Oregon trip with me and Love and Skate Stew, Rich Gilligan and Bruce the Ox, and our other friend Dave Fuller. And we went to Burnside, and I could not work out how to. I really wanted to slash the big cinder wall just because it's in all those old pictures, and I was like getting nowhere near it. And Bruce was injured, and he was just like, "Come on, if you hit this and hit this and hit this, you can get there." And he was like, "Just take the slam. You'll enjoy it. It'll be so good. Just do it. Just do it." And it was like he was trying the trick more than I was, and I was like, "I'm so scared, Bruce. I don't think I get it. I don't think I get the speed." And when I did it, he was so much more stoked than I was. I was like. But it was worth it. Like and Munster's the same. Like he can talk you into it. Like he would just be like, you can fucking do it.
Do you ever?
Although, sorry, hang on. Although that I know that's an impersonation of Munson, it doesn't really sound like him, but it is exactly like him at the same
Yeah.
time. Like it's fucking good.
Big up Munson.
He's good value, isn't he, Munson?
You're all right with a fucking pen, useless with a fucking airbrush.
Have you met his dad?
Yeah, once.
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
the same. It's just
Yeah.
fucking funny.
Munson's just his dad.
Yeah.
Did Munson tell you about us cooking pizzas on a barbecue as well?
No.
Like we on that same trip, Stiley was sure that we had an oven in the place we were staying, so we went and bought all these pizzas and got back. So me and Munson were like, "Yeah, you could definitely put an oven pizza on a barbecue." Doesn't work at all.
No, surely it just cooks and burns through.
It just burnt one side of it, and I was like, we should cut them in half. I was like, we should make a calzone out of them. That'll work. It did. It just sort of set fire to them.
What led up to you being arrested in Belgium, and what was going through your mind at the time? We had no context with that. It was just that.
We went on a witchcraft trip, and there was a lot of us, and then our other Belgian mates who have like a bowl in their garden and stuff. So the guy Ratman and Quinton, who
Sorry, Ratman.
yeah. I'm not sure if that's actually his
Some
name or
good
his
names
nickname,
in this episode,
but it
isn't
could
there?
be like a Dutch because he's like Flemish. It could be like you know, Ratman might mean something else. Like Rat House is like
Sweet
town
Apple's
hall
still
in
the
German.
best name
Yeah.
we've had on this episode, though, isn't it? Sweet Apple.
Yeah. So we skated this place. I think it was in Ghent, or it might have been Antwerp actually. And there was all the French team riders, the French guys that rode for Witchcraft. They'd come over as well, and then there was like other mates as well, and like Tibbs and Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
And our bell was only 16 actually.
He must have got out of skating at like 18 or
Yeah,
19.
and like Max Rotten as well. There was loads of us. So yeah, and Joxer as well. So we'd skated all these other parks, and these guys were like, oh, there's this place that make wind turbines, like the big ones that you get out of sea, but you can skate them as full pipes. So we went there and we parked up, and like we went in and found them, and you had to climb down this big thing on like a ladder. And it was in like a pit where they build them all. So we were skating there, and yeah, it was like really rad. We got loads of footage, like shot a few photos, and then someone was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get something from the van," and they came back and were like, there's fucking police everywhere." And I'm like, okay, well, and I was just like, well, I guess I was sort of in charge. Not really, as much as you could be in charge on a witchcraft trip. There isn't really anyone in charge. And I was like, well, that'll be fine. They'll just have a go at us and then we leave. So we went back up, and it was like, no, full like handcuffs. We're getting like more meat wagons. We all got nicked. Our bell got taken off to like I guess because he was under 18, he got taken off into like the children's bit. We got put in a cell with like all these other people. There was a woman opposite our cell who was wiping shit through the letterbox thing in the cell. She was wiping shit around the outside of the door and screaming. And obviously they take you off one at a time, and like you get interrogated. And it was like, "What are you doing?" And we're like, "We're just skating a wind turbine factory." Like, "Oh no, okay." So to make a example of us, the wind turbine factory decided that they thought that we were industrial espionage. Like they thought we'd been, because they only made one type of wind turbine there, so they thought people coming to take photos of the wind turbines, whereas we were like, no, it's skateboarding. But they'd taken us to a police station that was miles away from where they picked us up, but we obviously didn't have our van or cars.
They'd left them all at the spot.
Yeah, yeah. So Mikey Joyce was there as well, actually. Yeah. So everyone else had like loads of tattoos, obviously like Churchill and Tibbs, and so they wanted to take photos of all their tattoos. So some people just like, I think like Churchill and Tibbs actually like strip search to get all their photos for the records, and then we got put in this cell. And then obviously because we were the other guys were all like Dutch or Flemish or French or whatever, so they actually got given like paperwork to be like, you're in trouble, whereas they were like, English, you're not going to come back here if we take you to court. But they just let us out at like 4 o'clock in the morning, nowhere near it. So we had to like try and get taxis back to like where the van was. But it was quite funny. It was what I was really worried about our bell at the time. I was like, fuck. Like, but then we did speak to one of the policemen was actually kind of cool. He's like, no, they've just put him in this kid's bit because they won't put him in with everyone else. Yeah. Because it was like a lot of like
shit smearers.
Yeah, and like I guess like crackheads and like heroin addicts and stuff, and like it was.
Was you all in the same cell?
Yeah, it was like a big holding room. Yeah, and I think that made me feel a bit. It made me feel a bit safer that like Tibbs looks mental, right? Like you wouldn't fuck with Tibbs, even though his voice is like that. Like obviously he's got like bald hair, shaved bald head, like all the neck tattoos. He looks like that. Like him and Churchill. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they've taken all their hats off and stuff. You're like, but Tibbs is obviously like, hope no one tries to fuck us. It was like, Frenchie, they'll like your lovely floppy hair. Like, but yeah, so yeah, they let us. She's a fucking nightmare. Yeah, that trip was pretty funny.
Yeah,
sounds fucking good.
Yeah, that was a question from.
Did any of you shit and smear the shit on the cell?
No one smeared shit. I think Churchill had to go and take a poo. I think it really was like a long.
Take a poo.
It was like, oh no, I need a poo, and I was like, oh no, man, and it was like in the corner, like loads of people was just like.
If the world ran out of beans, what else would you put on your toast?
Who put beans on toast?
Fuck.
We're getting down to the nitty gritties here.
Well, eggs.
Eggs on toast.
Yeah.
So, do you like beans on toast?
Yeah.
What brand of beans are you going for?
Cheapest.
What?
Cheapest.
The cheapest. So
the white label.
Yeah. So, Tesco's value, Sainsbury's value, whatever.
I really prefer Branston beans. They're much better.
Thick and juicy.
They're just nicer.
Is that like a Cambridge sort of Cambridgeshire thing? Like,
no, it's just a
rich person thing.
I think maybe because my parents we never had any branded stuff at all when I was a kid. Like,
I never had branded. It was all white label.
Yeah, nothing was branded.
Tesco value and all that. Yeah, we had a lot of that as well.
As the brand.
Yeah. No, we never. There wasn't Asda near us. So.
Yeah, we didn't have Asda near us.
You know, in Germany, every major city has like its own version of a sausage. And like when you go to other places, like I went to this metal festival with my friend Lars, and we were talking to these other guys, and this guy was like, "Oh, so like, do you live in England?" I was like, no, I live in Nuremberg. And here's a house at Dry Wegler. How is it? And I was like, yeah, Dry Wegler is good. The Dry Wegler is just like, it's like a bap with 3 little sausages in it. Whereas like, do you know what I mean? Like everyone else just has like one giant sausage. This one's got 3 little ones. And this guy was like, and it wasn't like, I was waiting for it to be a joke. I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. I've always wanted to try this. I was just like,
fucking hell.
right.
They're on it for the.
They love that over there.
They're on it for their
Breakfast.
meats, aren't they?
They love a bit of meat.
Should we go to Germany to look at the little airport, the miniature Wunderland?
Miniature Wonderland.
And then we get what were the
Can you-
sausages it was on about?
Can you
Dry
just,
Wegler.
Dry and Wegler.
Yeah.
Sean, can you just Google miniature Wonderland hamburger? I just want French to see what I was talking about before we finish on the most important last question we have for you.
Miniature Wunderland.
That's
It's
going to be
fucking good.
that's such a good audio bite. Oh, I'd really want to try.
So it's in one of those old dock buildings.
Type in miniature Wunderland aeroplane.
Have you ever heard the story about the guy with the Frankfurt 9? Have you ever heard this one?
No.
Has ever told you this? There was this German guy and he was like skating Stockwell, and he was like, "Oh, so I've do you know any other good stair sets? Because yesterday I went to the South Bank 7. Oh, I just nothing up to the Frankfurt 9. It's like I listed all of my tricks, but then I seem to like attract these kind of guys, right? So then I was with my friends in Germany, and me and my friend Stefan, we drove to Munich and like skated a couple blocks, and there was this guy there, and he was like full DC outfit, baggy pants, the rest of it, and he was trying to switch fronts to flip over the pyramid to flat, and he kept filming it, and we always said, and in Germany quite often you go to parks and everyone's like, so I've also, like, everyone says hello, you say hello no matter what, and it's like a real nice thing that people do it, and this guy sort of wasn't into it with me and Stefan, and then Stefan was like, I know this guy. And then he's trying to film, and he kept almost landing the trick. And every time he landed, he was like, one more. And he was just like, he just kept, he was like, huh? To the other guy that was filming. And I was like, right, that's fucking, he was like, next, all in. And then he kept landing it and slamming it. And then when he landed it, he was like, yeah, all in. And like, right away. And then this guy, so my friend Stefan was like, you know who this guy is? His name is Simon F. And I was like, okay, Simon F. And then we went to this bar after, and we met our friend Philip. And Philip was like, oh, this guy is Simon F. Oh, he's such an arschloch. He's from the same town as me. He was like, yeah, once we were like all talking about like, hey, Simon, you take yourself so seriously. You got to chill, man. You got to chill. And apparently he was at the bar and he just took a sip out of his beer, put it down, and he went, hey, you guys, you won't be talking shit when you see my footage. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, you won't be talking shit when you see my footage.
Fucking hell.
Amazing.
I want to go to Germany now. What other good quotes
so
or like
good.
just being on a session or just passing people in the street have you heard where it's just funny? Because they are funny.
I heard a good one.
Because they're so serious, but then sometimes it's so very...
In Bretterbury, there were these 2 kids in the skate shop, and this one kid just turns to the other one, real young kids that just started skating. And this one kid, he just turns to the other kid, he goes, hey, you know what? Board slide is better than backside. And the other kid goes, yeah, I know, man, I know. It's like, board slide is better than backside.
Fucking hell, they're great, aren't they?
Should we do this one and then
Wrap it up on that one, because I need a wee. We need to go skate with... Go see Zombie Stu, see if Bromley's here. If he's not and he's listening, we need a blast episode as well.
we want to know where the nickname comes from?
Which one?
French.
French?
Yeah. What's the,
I had an
what's the,
Etnies t-shirt
the
from
origins?
France.
The what?
I had an Etnies t-shirt from France when I was 12.
And that's it.
And that's it.
And that's it. No more. We don't need any more context. That's it.
That's why, yeah, British nicknames are fucking great. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
You know why Chaz 1 is called Chaz? You know why Chaz is called Chaz? You know his name's Chris, right?
No.
Because our other mate thought that Chaz is short for Christopher. He's that stupid. And it just stuck.
And now he's known as Chaz.
Yeah.
Chaz one.
We had another mate called Rat, who originally was Ramp Rat, who also got called Old Moody Bastard because he was hip hop as fuck. But he was just miserable.
Old moody bastard.
Old Moody Bastard.
Fucking hell. So French literally, that's it. That's the mystery solved.
Yeah. We used to go on holiday when I was a kid all the time to France. My parents really like going to France. And we went to Angoulême. Actually, it's quite nice when I've met like quite a few other skaters, like French skaters, and then told them that's when I went like, oh, I know that. And there was a skate shop called New Wave. It was like a surf skate shop, and I had enough holiday money that I could either buy a t-shirt or like probably some wheels. I didn't need wheels, so I bought an Etnies t-shirt because I'd never seen anything Etnies before. And then when I came back, all the older skaters were like, Etnies, it's like a shit French brand. Where'd you get that, France? Like, what else was there? And I was like, oh, there was like an indie t-shirt. Like, why didn't you buy the indie t-shirt? And I was like, because I thought the Etnies one was cool. No, French boy. Also, my nickname isn't French, it's French boy.
French boy.
It always was French boy. And what's funny is that my goddaughter calls me French boy as well. Because
French
her
boy.
dad will be like, all right, French boy. French boy.
So good.
Right, on that note,
Yeah.
shall we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for
That's right, thanks
coming
for
on the
having me.
show and geeking out about art and skateboarding and Bratwurst and the Germans.
Can you do a good French accent?
No, not really.
Your German one's pretty good.
Do you want to sign us off and say my name's...
No, don't do that bullshit.
But in
Mark.
but in a German accent, my name's French and you've been watching the Brain Drain show. Thanks for listening.
No,
No,
don't.
ik kan niet.
Yeah.
There you go.
Fuck
All right.
We're not doing that anymore.
Right, thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers, dude.
Nice
That's
round of
right.
Good to
applause
see you.
in the
Thanks for
studio
coming.
audience, please. Right, let's go do some frontside grinds.